naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
You're still watching Ways now, National Kissing Day. I'm gonna kiss somebody tonight. On June 22nd is all about showing your love and improving your health. That's right, kissing is actually good for you. That's hashtag wellness, right? Kissing relieves stress, it burns calories and benefits your immunity. That's if you're kissing the right person that does not have disease. So with so many perks, we can't imagine why anyone wouldn't want to celebrate this day. Today, kissing is a form of communication. We use it to show love, or in some cultures as a greeting. The running theory on the evolution of this of the kiss is based on our natural instinct to share food, similar to how many mammals feed their young ones. Now, since then, historians believe the earliest reference to kissing traces back to India, with 4 major texts in the Vedic Sanskrit lecture referencing the supposed earliest forms of kissing, dating from 1500 BC. These texts describe kissing as the act of rubbing and pressuring the nose together. Nama, bring your lips here.
They said the nose. They said the nose.
Wait, nose. Can I tell you to bring your nose? Bring your lips.
You know, funny enough, my little son at home, there was a day that I don't know what he did, and he felt I was offended with it. He said, "Mama, bring your face. I just want to
Kiss you."
And then he just rubs it.
His nose.
Like, look at this young man. As little as you already have. But I was super excited that he's in touch with his emotions,
Yeah,
right?
but children do that a lot with the nose.
definitely.
Yeah.
My kids, when they were younger, every time, you go,
It has a warm feeling to it,
Yeah.
actually, when done with the right person.
please, oh. Don't want.
But the part that interested me the most was the calorie burning part. How do you burn calories?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're doing exercise.
No, but you know that. Okay, so let me just say, with sex, it's and when it's passionate.
Yeah.
So when the kiss is passionate, it comes from within, so it burns some calorie,
Right.
something like that.
Experience.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that info.
See my notepad, I was writing.
I hear you. All right, so who are we starting with? Let me start with you, NJ. What do you find for us to do news?
Oh, me? Nothing too interesting, but very, very interesting. Actually, don't mind me. It was actually an article in Punch newspaper about Afe Babalola being recognized as the 400. I think they placed 400 globally. And I think it's a good thing for Nigeria, and it's in this time where we are, even though it's not the number where we want to be, but the fact that we have a university that we can actually be proud of on the global scale and has been recognized on the global scale. So I think it's a good thing, because right now Nigeria is dishing out a lot of bad news, and it's good for us to once in a while get good recognition and good publicity for things where we're actually getting it good. So I think that's what
That's a good thing.
yeah. What do you have?
That's a private school, right?
Yes, Afe Babalola University is it's called, the full is
You have to find it.
Abuad. So Afe Babalola
University.
University Ado Ekiti.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's like a private school.
Yeah. I
It doesn't belong to the state or the government, no.
I don't think.
You don't think so?
I think it's a private university.
Because I know that Covenant University at some point was graded. I don't know what number they are on globally.
Yeah.
But I know that they've always made that global list of, best
Yeah,
universities in
which
the
is
world.
quite funny why Afe Babalola University was chosen.
I'm happy for them.
Was chosen, which means places them as #1 in Nigeria out of 97 universities in Nigeria
Oh,
currently.
wow. Okay, so is it that they have overtaken Covenant? We'll check that out.
Do you understand?
But it's a
Well,
private university, I hear,
It's,
though.
Yeah.
I guess everybody has that opportunity to.
Yeah.
It's a competitive world. So
Absolutely.
keep
So they have to do
competing.
more, yes, and evolve. All right, so Norma, your story.
Unfortunately, I have very sad news.
Oh, wow.
There was an earthquake in Afghanistan, and at least 1,000 people died in that earthquake, and about 1,500 were injured. So a powerful earthquake has killed at least 1,000 people and injured 1,500 at the eastern Afghanistan. And the earthquake struck shortly after about 1:30. That's about 9 o'clock GMT on yesterday, while people slept. So you can imagine, because of the fact that people were not conscious, they were mostly sleeping. A lot of people just went like that. Hundreds of houses were destroyed by the magnitude. The magnitude was about 6.1, which occurred at a depth of 51 kilometers. That's like 32 miles. And they say that this is the deadliest earthquake to strike Afghanistan in 2 decades, and major challenge for the Taliban that had taken over after the Americans left Afghanistan. And a lot of collapse already. Afghanistan has been hit all round with wars and, of course, the natural outcomes that come from war, suffering, poverty, people, there's no infrastructure and all of that. So adding an earthquake to the calamity that they have suffered over the years was just a deadly blow. And the Taliban are asking for UN support in this regard. The hospitals are struggling because there's lack of medical care and even manpower to handle the casualties and the victims, people who were injured seriously. And sometimes when I hear news like this, I'm wondering if something like this happened in Africa or in Nigeria, to be precise. I do not even know if there will be anything left of us. It was really tragic for me to read because a lot of people lost children, some people missing family members. It's just a lot of chaos going on. And we're praying that somehow help will come and that things will get better. It's really unfortunate.
Very
this
sad.
time.
Very sad.
Very sad. So that is crazy.
So,
Can't even imagine.
how corporate tenants shun Lagos high-rise office spaces amid harsh condition, harsh economy, right? So this is just like would I call it an expose or a write-up? Somebody was just explaining, and I thought that caught my attention because, I mean, I've been shopping and hunting for an office space, and I can tell you for free, it's not an easy thing. And because we're talking business today, right, I just thought to bring it as my news story. So I just want to read a few excerpts from the body of this conversation. It says, over the last couple of decades, the cost of renting an office space in Lagos, particularly around the Highborough area of its island, has been relatively high. In 2021, it was reported that the average cost of renting an office space in Lagos Island stood at 3.6 million naira per annum. This has led to lower demand due to declining purchasing power of several corporate organizations which are facing economic downturn and revenue crunch. Now, according to a recent report, prime office segment of the Nigerian real estate market recorded its worst performance in 5 years, with the vacancy rate remaining unchanged as of the second half of 2021. The report described 2021 as the office market's less than desirable period when the performance of the key metrics such as take-up was at its lowest. On the other hand, a report of 2014 showed that there was one of the highest period where people rented office spaces. So, I mean, so when we talk about economic growth, right, and, you know, business growth and progress and all of that, it just tells you that, you know, this is the reality of what we're facing. Because you see so many to let, you know, by the time you go there, you ask about the costing, and it's so expensive. You just say, you know what, I think I should work from home. And again, I believe that even COVID opened a lot of it opened our eyes to a lot of things that, okay, you really do not need an office space, especially if you're not interacting with. So I've seen a lot of startup companies, they have massive funding in terms of investment in dollars, but yet all their staff, they're working from home. So these are things that, apart from the things that we do, that we have to be in a physical studio. I mean, the Real in the US, they were doing the Real up until
virtually for a while.
I mean, it was almost 2 years they were recording from home. But the thing is, it was expensive because each anchor had to have a complete set.
Literally a whole studio
camera to yourself, everything, because they were not using, it wasn't the Zoom thing, you know. But I'm just saying to you that even landlords need to start rethinking, because you cannot afford to keep your rents at a high price. So you might need to really crunch it down, because everything is eating up your money. If it's not the fuel, it is the power. If it is not the power, it is the, what's it called?
And people are prioritizing
food
now.
And thank you. So people are prioritizing what is most important, and that's what they're spending on. So, I mean, it will only make sense that this landlord association review your, I'm just telling you, because, you know, that was where I was landing with the conversation. Just try to review it, because, I mean, you don't want to leave the spaces empty anyway. All right.
Just to bring another angle to it, the fact that, you know, even in Lagos, people are even reconsidering because of the number of collapse of buildings.
So people are even running away from high rises.
People are even being conscious, and even with all of the glam and everything, they're like, my life is more important to me than your high-rise building. So.
All right, so let's bring in our guests. We'll come back from the break. We want to discuss the proper mindset for business success. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. From the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, according to a publication by Powerful Impact, monster entrepreneurs want to grow most entrepreneurs rather want to grow their business. If you're just starting out, you at least want to set yourself up for success. But whether you are new or have been trying to build your business for some time now, one thing is for sure, you want growth and you want it really soon. Now, it's every entrepreneur's dream to be the next Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. You can mention whatever that is equivalent to your industry. You might have ventured into entrepreneurship with an idea that you thought would be the next biggest thing. But as you've probably known by now, great ideas alone don't work. So you are stuck till still trying to get your business off the ground. So you keep your business afloat with the thoughts that your perseverance will get you somewhere somehow. Now, perseverance pays off, but not always. It might sound cliche, but business success starts with the right mindset. Now, the growth mindset is the perfect mindset for business success. So what role do you think or do you feel mindset plays in the success of a business? Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. So I'll bring in Tewa in a minute, right? I just want to hear your quick thoughts on business success and, the mindset,
When we talk about business mindset, my mind quickly goes to motivational, uncles and aunties.
Aspire to aspire.
Like you always say, aspire to aspire and all of that. So, but most people, business mindset is not about just motivational quotes. How you say, all those pumping touch points that just ginger people, and there's no action. It's a whole different concept when it comes to business mindset. It is something you become. It's not just something you say or something you just dream about. It is something that it's a way of thinking that sees opportunities, or rather sees problems as opportunities, and you're always looking to provide solutions.
Absolutely.
And when you have the right kind of mindset, you would not be in a situation where you would not be able to thrive, because when you're solving problems for people, then actually there's a business there.
Absolutely. How about you, NJ? What's your thoughts?
Well, I've tried being in business once or twice in my lifetime, but I've found myself in the corporate world more often time than none. But when it comes to business mindset, it's not even just when you have a business that like a private business that you want to go into. It's also even being in that corporate space. There's a mindset to it. You have to, there are requirements in order to stay relevant within that space. You always have to make sure, in terms of education, you continue to re-educate yourself on what is expected of you, what are the requirements at every level you're getting to, whether it's trends within the industry. So you always have to, there's a price to pay. And you have to be willing to pay that price, and that's the mindset. You have to know what is expected of you and be willing to do it in order to get where you want to go. You can't just wake up every morning wishing you were like Mark Zuckerberg without sleeping at 3 a.m. and waking up at 5 a.m. and having to go to the gym and receiving a call at 6 a.m. That's the lifestyle of those people, and if you're not willing to do it, then you're not willing to be that rich.
So it's interesting that you talked about, growth, in the corporate world.
Yeah.
If you have the entrepreneurial mindset in the corporate world, you will definitely stand out. All the pointers will know that this person is different because you have the heart of the business in your heart, and so most times the way you would approach the work will just be completely different from just a regular employee, right? So even within the corporate world, a lot of people do not understand this mindset that is required, for business success, and that's why so many businesses, struggle. So you must really have the right team, and the right team should be thinking about the growth of the business as much as the business owner. But let me bring in our guest now. Tewa Onasanya is an entrepreneur and a philanthropist, right? She's a publisher, author, and mindset stylist. I like this. Holds a BSc in pharmacology from the University of Portsmouth, UK, and a diploma in fashion journalism from the College of Media and Publication, UK. Is certified. She's also she has a certificate in mindfulness, right, from Udemy, and a certified law of attraction practitioner, Jehovah Shammah. So you can't miss it anywhere. She's the founder of Exquisite Magazine, a fashion and lifestyle magazine from the Unlimited Woman, which organizes the Exquisite Magazine Awareness for Cancer events, and in 2019 started an only female award ceremony called the Exquisite Lady of the Year. That's Eloy, in case you do not know the full name, now you know. Eloy Awards and Conference, aimed at sustaining women's empowerment by celebrating and empowering women of excellence in different fields. Tewa has been featured in numerous international and Nigerian media, which include CNN, BBC, New York Times, Wikipedia, Punch, Guardian, This Day, Vanguard, and many more newspaper and television stations. She's won several awards internationally and locally in Nigeria, and we're super honored to be having her live with us in studio. Hey! Only you, Wakako. I know, right? But it's such an honor to have you.
It's an honor being here. Thank you for inviting me. You ladies look so exquisite.
Oh yeah, we have to look good for the exquisite lady herself.
Absolutely, you look divine.
How are you?
I'm very blessed.
It's been a long time since I met you.
Yes.
I said, wow, it's been such a long time. But I mean,
Yes.
over the years, I have seen you evolve, right? And it was worth having this conversation to celebrate, you know, what you've been doing and you know, what you keep doing for women. So, you know, first of all, what mindset do you as Tewa, what do you have? Because we've seen that growth show up in every single thing, how you evolved from just, you know, magazines, you became, then the awards started, the conferences started, now you're doing a lot of business clinics for women, and you're doing exceptionally well, you know. So tell us how the mind of Tewa is working right now. Let's understand your mind.
Tewa's mindset. So, this might seem a little bit, you know, out of what's the word, but I strongly believe my mindset at the moment, at this part of my life, is that whatever you dare dream of, you can do it. The only reason it would not come to pass is if I give up. So, and it scares me actually when I came into this realization a few years ago. When I say a few years ago, when we started the conference in a big way, so this was in 2019, and you know, I had this from my mindset styling work and, you know, the law of attraction and mindfulness and things like that. I have come to realize that whatever it is we want to, whatever vision we have, whatever goal, whatever dream we have, is God's words for us. And it has to come true. Absolutely. So the only reason that it doesn't come to, you know, reality is if we don't do it or we give up. Absolutely. So I have that mindset of, okay, if I can even conceive this idea, that means it's possible. The only reason that it won't, you know, be possible is if I give up. So that's my mindset at the moment.
Awesome. So you see a lot of business women, you see a lot of, you know, I mean, businesses, because we're focusing on women, right?
Yeah.
But, you know,
sorry,
tell us,
men.
yeah, sorry. Sorry, they say we always talk, but we need, you people need us more than we need you right now, because I mean the population is huge, and women are entrepreneurs are the biggest employers of labor. So you must understand that it's important for us to succeed in our businesses, right? So you know, maybe you should walk us through first of all, what do you think is the biggest challenge, right, that you see business failures when it comes to women-led businesses? Yeah.
So I would say the mindset. That would be my first thing. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people have these bright ideas, but how many people are actually running with the ideas? And the ones that are running with the ideas, how many are going that extra length to not give up, but make sure that, you know, it's thriving, it's growing, it's surviving? Because everybody, you know, a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs, they have these bright ideas, but they still kind of like cower and say, okay, will I succeed? And some people don't even want to be seen starting from the bottom. You know, and things like that. So that mindset as well is kind of like putting people back. And the funniest thing is women entrepreneurs make up about, I think, 40% or more of the SME population in probably Nigeria or the world, or in Africa, actually. And we're not even, yes, we have other, you know, other challenges, obviously finance and then access to entrepreneur trainings and things like that. And when I say access to entrepreneur trainings, there are trainings, but then again, are people applying what knowledge they've acquired? And that goes back to the mindset.
Right.
Because when you go to all these trainings, you've been
there's so many
aspired
of
and
them.
perspired. You've been, you know, you've been gingered and stuff. What happens after that? Which is why we actually do what we do with the Eloy Awards and the Exquisite magazine as well. Because we're thinking, okay, you can't all come to this conference and then you get all the motivation, you're inspired, and then you go home. It's like the balloon just gets deflated. Because sometimes people don't even know where to start.
Right.
People don't know where to start. Sometimes I don't even know where to start. You have this big vision and you're thinking, okay, where exactly do I start from?
Absolutely.
You know, and you need this. So it all starts with the mindset. And a lot of people might not know this, but whatever we achieve in life is actually 95% our mindset and 5% the actual work we put in. Absolutely. Because the mindset will determine what kind of action you're going to take, what kind of thoughts you're going to entertain. Because a lot of people are not intentional about the thoughts as well. And all of these things matter.
Absolutely. Hey.
Wow, it seems like a whole lot.
It is a whole lot.
How do people, especially in these times where we have a different kind of generation, people who are not, what would I say? I don't want to label, but it seems like the trend in these times, people are not, they don't, the values that used to be quite important in business back in the days. Some of the values, principles, right? It seems like everybody's like instant now. And even as they want to succeed, they want to see it happen now, they're not ready to do the work. So when you say mindset, some of them have the ginger, some of them have the drive, but there are other things within the space of mindset that they require to be able to succeed. So what would you say about that?
It has to do with discipline, being disciplined. Because if you're not disciplined enough, whatever it is that you need to do, you won't do it anyway. If there are habits that are stopping you from getting to where you want to get to, you have to be able to identify what those habits are so that you can say, okay, you know, this is not serving my higher purpose. Let me do this way and let me do this that way. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen. Overnight success doesn't last. Overnight success doesn't even happen overnight. True. Do you understand what I mean? I don't know why they call it overnight, to be honest. Because, I mean, yeah, you wake up one day and you're hearing Tewa, Tewa, Tewa. But do you know what Tewa's been doing?
She's been doing a lot.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, we've been, the Eloy was, what, since 2009, the magazine since 2003. I mean, 19 years of that. Wow. So it's been, success doesn't happen overnight. Yes, success happens when you're consistent and when you're intentional about it. But the big thing is being disciplined. Nothing just happens like that. Because if it happens like that, even the person that it's happening to won't appreciate it. And anything that happens just like that goes just like that. Because you're not, you know, like you talked about values, you mentioned values and principles. You won't have built in yourself what should I say, the character to be able to hold on to it, to be able to keep it. It's like money given to you free of charge. You know.
It just go the way it came.
Just goes the way it came. Yeah.
Let's take a break.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Let's drink some water. We shall be right back. Stay with us. All right, so if you just tuned in, we are having an amazing chat discussing the role of mindset in business success with Tewa Onosanya. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp 081-803-4663. You can also tweet at us at Wayshow after one with the hashtag Wayshow. All right, Nama, you wanted to ask a follow-up question. Yeah.
Okay, so how do we now begin to develop a business mindset?
Big question. The number one thing that I always say, and I say this to myself as well, is do a self-audit. Be aware of yourself. Who are you? People go around and say, oh, I'm this, I'm that. people don't really know who they are.
True.
Who are you? What do you want? What do you like? People want to be rich, yeah, but by how much? People want more money, but how much do you want? People want a new house. How, you know, what kind of house? Yeah. People want a successful business, but what does a successful business mean to you? Not what it means to me or what it means to your mentor, but what it means to you personally. So the number one thing about with the mindset for success, or, you know, as an entrepreneur, is to determine exactly who you are. Who are you? What do you want for your business? Not what the next person is doing, but what do you want for your business? Why do you want your business to succeed? All of those questions, and I call it self-audit, and I do this to myself every quarter or so, because you need to reevaluate yourself. You need, because the way you were a year ago is, in fact, what am I saying? A month ago is different from the way you are now. You know, your ideals a few months ago, definitely different from your ideals now. So number one thing is definitely be aware of who you are, identify who you are, what you want, what success means to you. What is a successful business to you? To some people, a successful business might be turning £1 million every week. To some people, it might just be, let me just even turn 1 million naira. Some people, it might be, let me just turn 100,000 naira. What does it mean to you? Not following the crowd, but what does it mean to you?
So you must, you must personalize, your definition of what your success will look like.
Yes, what your business will
And I think a lot of us don't do that.
It's very important.
I was going to ask that because you see, this thing you talk about, you know, personalizing it, not many people, and this is what you get when you get, probably maybe get put into a small workshop to say they want to train you and all of that. But how effective are those? Because again, it is one thing for you to get trainings as an entrepreneur. It's another thing, like you rightly said, you know, to follow up, to apply them, right? So do you see, have you seen growth, what's it called, histories, like with the people that you have trained over the years? Have you
seen progress?
Have you seen like real what is the score, your score
real
sheet?
progress?
Yeah, real progress.
Yeah. The thing with us is, and I say this with, you know, great humility and, you know, the fact that we are blessed to be able to get to this point. What we say is we're sustaining women empowerment. Remember I said earlier that we don't want to just have the conversation and it ends there. Anybody that comes onto the Eloy Awards Foundation, sorry I had to mention the name, will be on our database for life unless you opt out. And we're constantly sending you information so that to tweak your mind so that you're, you know, learning something. And we have something called the Sustainable Empowerment Program as well, where people on that program go, you know, we have webinars, networking, mentoring, all of these things are available. We want to definitely move away from just talking about it, but doing something about it, taking action about it. If we're saying, okay, yeah, women empowerment, how do we sustain it? This is by us having constant conversations with the people that have come in contact with us. So anybody that's in contact with us, we're always sending newsletters out, we're sending emails out, we're sending webinar details out for you too, and we're always reminding them as well with different information, mentorship as well. So all of these things are things that are really, really needed if we're saying that, okay, we're moving from, and I have to keep references to perspire to aspire.
Right.
Because actually doing.
Absolutely, because I was going to say that, you know, what we have now, I'm an entrepreneur. Everybody's an entrepreneur. But, you know, there is a clear distinction between a businesswoman. Like you are just a market woman. You go to buy market, you sell market. And there is a clear distinction between that and entrepreneurship. But everybody calls themselves an entrepreneur, right? Do we even understand, right? Do they even understand who an entrepreneur truly is? Most women, do they really know, you know, do they know that, I mean, from your experience with women?
Some of them do, some of them don't. At least most of them call themselves, you know, business owners, which is good because business owners is like, you know, most people are business owners. When you're moving to entrepreneurship, that's when you're now doing different things, like me.
Yes, I'm putting structures.
Yeah, different things. In fact, let's talk about structures. Part of, you know, knowing who you are, what you want for your business, and the underlying thing is putting a proper structure in place. Even if you're a trader, a structure needs to be in place. This is what we advocate for, and this is what we're always campaigning for. That yes, you're a business owner, have a structure. That is how your business is going to be sustainable. Don't use your personal account for your business and then, you know, be dipping in and out of, you know, your personal account for your business and things like that. You know, have a proper structure in place, even if you have only one staff. It's really, I mean, it's something that has to be taught over and over again. And the funniest thing is, and I say this to myself and to people around me as well, that, you know, when you've gone past the mountain, it would require you to become another level of you to go past another mountain. So we're constantly learning. I think you said that earlier.
Yeah.
Evolving, we're constantly learning. So people have to put themselves in that space to be open to constantly learning as well. Because you can't grow if you don't learn.
NJ.
So what I've taken from this, especially when you, you know, clipped on structure, is a very, you know, it's a very touchy point for me, because I believe that every business, no matter the kind of business it is, and like you said, each process by which your company or your foundation or your business or your program is known, that this is how they operate. This is how they operate.
How you
this
work.
is the process.
Yeah.
So, and that is also what helps to, you know, hinge on the integrity of your brand or your company or your business.
Exactly.
Because when people are sure, even when things are changing, people know that, okay, no, we trust them for this, they are known for this. So
yeah.
Even if I believe that if there's a structure for this, it shouldn't be for this business, it shouldn't be used for other businesses. Meaning that each of your businesses
should have their own
different
structure.
A life of its
yeah, like an SOP, standard operating
because
procedure.
I know you have a foundation. I know you have an awards.
Yeah.
I know you have different events.
You have the business clinics.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all those programs have different structures because at the end of the day,
Definitely.
there are different outputs.
Yes.
To those structures.
and they all have different outcomes as well. So definitely.
So I was going to ask though, with what NJ has said now, shouldn't there be a central point of? So I get it. Every business must have its own life, a life of its own structure, and all of that. But shouldn't there be like a central point to where
like
all of this tie up? Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have that? Yes.
Yeah, we do. So
Like
for
a
me,
group
it would
of
be
companies or
so we're like a group. And for me, our core is actually me, to be honest. But then again, so when I say that the core is me, we have a core, and everybody knows the core of the business, like is the core of the business. And from the exquisite, the mother hen, we have the Eloise, we have the cervical cancer, we have the magazine. And then, yes, I do mindset styling. That's actually separate from the exquisite brand. That's another company. That's Tewa Nosanya. That's another company on its own. So it had to be like that. Otherwise, we're gonna be feeding off it, and that's what we realized when the magazine was the first thing that started, and we talked about evolving. So I evolved into the award ceremony, and then cervical cancer prevention. Everything was under exquisite before. But when everything started having its own life, it now became necessary that, okay, Eloise has to have its own account. The Foundation for Cervical Cancer has to have its own account, has to have its own people as well, the project managers, the project coordinators. So separate stuff. And it comes from understanding what we want to achieve with the companies.
So
because if we didn't,
because you had defined the success of each
one. Yeah. So it became, yes, we have the mother hen, but it became very important that, okay, for everything to run the way it's supposed to run, they have to be separated. And yes, they can come together and say, okay, yeah, this is what we do. And everything leads to it. Because the magazine, so we always say that it's powered by the magazine because the magazine is the powerhouse for it. But it was at a point where we understood where we were going. We understood what success meant to us. We understood the structure that we wanted to have in place, the mindset that we want to run the company with. Hence, we're able to do that. And that's what people need to do, because otherwise it becomes all mumble jumble. And nobody's sure what the next thing is, when the next thing is happening, or what the next thing is, and things like that.
And you can't even be accountable.
And we won't be accountable. I'm not saying it's perfect, because we're human. We have to leave that room for imperfection and things like that. But at least have that mindset that, okay, you know what? Have direction. I'm starting this business. Let me start as I mean to go on. Is that the word? Mean as start as you mean to go on. Things like that. And that's what we train on. Like what's happening tomorrow, for instance. We're talking about, the structure. So tomorrow's event, it's more about, so we're sustaining women empowerment by doing business showers. And with these events, what we're saying is that, okay, you're a business owner, yeah? There are fundamental things that have to be in place for you to, this business that you've said that you're running, we're not hoping that your business is going to fail in a year or 5 years, which is according to stats. We're hoping that you're going to be able to sustain this business. These are the fundamental things that you need to be aware of and that you need to know as well.
Absolutely. And put in place.
Put in place. The foundation. Know how to sell your market. Everybody is a salesperson. Believe in what you do. Be intentional about the success of your company.
My word.
It might be intentional.
Oh
Yes, me too.
Oh yeah.
Me too. You might say that it's a small company today, but then again, stop seeing it as a small company and just I'm just doing it. No, it's something that you've decided to put yourself into. You might as well apply everything. So everybody that comes to the business shower gets a toolkit. A business toolkit that gives them information about, different things that they need to run their businesses.
Absolutely.
That's how we keep them, we kind of like keep them in knowledge mode, so to speak, because they have something to take away with them. And we're following up with them as well.
Yeah.
The mindset is very, very important.
I think it's
Sorry, I talk a lot when I
Trust me. I was going to ask you that because again, somebody is asking the same question around, when do you know that, especially when you have multiple businesses, you know that some will do well, some won't do so well. When is that right time to say, you know what, this is not working, let us close this chapter, let's close this file? Because a lot of us, because we're passionate about what it is we want to deliver, even when we can clearly see the signs that the business in itself is not going as planned, we still hold on to it emotionally. Tewa is rolling her eyes.
I think the first question will be, has she let go of any business? Yes.
And I'm about to say, I'm asking the wrong person. But in saying that, I said earlier that my mindset is if you can think about it, you can do it. And I strongly believe that if I wanted to succeed, then I just have to, put in that extra effort and, be disciplined about what I want to do. But in saying that though, I tend not to, and I preach this as well, I tend not to change the goal, instead change the direction or the plan that you need to get to it. When we started the magazine, we were print. We printed the magazines every month. The world was evolving into digital. Everybody consumes their news on their newspaper, on their phones, on their we were printing but losing money. People were not buying because people would rather see it on their tablets or on their phones and things like that. So we had to evolve. You evolve or you stay stagnant and die. So evolve, change the direction, change the plan. But if your goal is to run a successful, if your goal is if you see this business as something that is a success,
already,
I strongly advise that you keep at it. Get mentors. Speak to people who have been in the shoes you're walking in so they can advise you. But, if within you can see nowhere, because we win and lose in the mind first. If you can see no other direction, then maybe it's time for you to move on.
Wow, someone says big energy. I love the discussion on structural business. It says redefining mindfulness as being self-aware.
Yes.
I mean, she's bringing big energy. She gets it. Okay. Now you have a comment.
Yes, I do. All right, so it says, good evening, my dear beautiful sisters of What Are You Saying? #Ways. We already know who you are. The role of mindset in business success. That is the topic for discussion. To have mindset in a successful business, you must have a planned budget. Secondly, you need to believe in your budget for a successful business. If not, the business will not flourish. My name is Daniel Ilo.
Without money, no business.
Daniel has brought another perspective to where does budget come in when you have a business and mindset.
Mindset. Everything. I would keep saying this from here to Kingdom Come. Everything is about the mindset. Even if you have a budget and you do not believe in yourself or your budget,
like
nothing's gonna happen.
In Nigeria today,
nothing's gonna happen. You have to strongly believe in it, and that's the number 2 thing I talk about when we're talking about the entrepreneur mindset. Actually, believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody will. We're selling something every single day as human beings. You have to be able to effectively sell whatever it is you're giving out there to the public, because you started the business because you believe you can solve a problem.
Right.
So you have to be able to talk about it. You have to believe in yourself. And whatever budget, yes, with the environment that we're in, things definitely change. But then again, are you going to give up because things change? You find a way to make it happen. Don't shift, don't change the goal, change the direction. If, yesterday rice was 500 naira and you're a food person, you're a chef or something, food vendor, then you change your pricing. We would understand that the price of diesel has gone up, hence the price is the way it is. But no, first of all, do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in your product for you to convince me or speak about it enough?
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about this because you see, it seems like with businesses, right, mindset is a strong factor that helps you also project your business in the right light. So how many of us, you know, are able to tell the story of our businesses? So you are put in front of an investor, for instance, and you're not able to sell that, you know. So how do you begin to, you know, shift that mindset to say, I don't have, you know, because some people don't believe that they have to be great storytellers. They do not believe that they have to understand the power of presentation. Your look, everything, because it's a brand you're trying to build here, right? So those people that have those mindset that the business will speak for itself, you understand? What would you say to them?
I had that mindset for so long that let people know the business and not me. So for so many years, people didn't know who the magazine owner was. People didn't know who the Eloy Awards founder was. For so many years, we had a PR company that that came to work with the magazine. Just like, you have to put yourself out there. I'm like, no, I don't want to. I was like, you have to put yourself out there because you are the brand.
Absolutely.
You are the brand. And even though I am a confident person, actually, in real life.
Yes, you are.
I am, right? But to talk about my business, I felt like, and a lot of women feel this way.
Yeah.
We feel like, talking about your business feels like you're putting yourself in people's faces and you're being, you're being overly, what's the word?
We
Maybe
call it
proud.
humility.
I know, right? But the funniest thing is, the men go out there and talk about their business. The men go out there and ask for the money. Nobody says, oh, stop talking about your business, stop doing da. So we have to build that confidence because that confidence is what will get you sitting in front of the investors and telling them X, Y, Z about my company, and this is what I want to achieve. This is why I need your money. This is, it's the confidence. So it needs to be
how
built.
you adding that? Do you infuse that as part of your
Oh yeah,
training?
yes. So I'm big on the mindset.
Yeah.
So I take the entrepreneur, the mindset for entrepreneur. I take that session and it's the beginning of everything because if the mindset is not right, nothing is going to stick. No, how you think really matters because some people might start a business but they're thinking to themselves, will it succeed? You're already killing the business before it even starts. The way you think about the business, because the way you think determines the kind of action you take.
Absolutely.
Because intuition will come into play when you're, when you say that you're doing X, Y, Z in your business. The intuition or your spirit might say to you, call that person or write that letter to that big company. And you think, big company, no, I can't do this, I can't do that. You've already killed that before you even went into it. Yeah. So it's very, very important to be clear about who you are. And the funniest thing is, yes, I run all these companies. There are things that I'm weak at. And what do? Get people who are stronger in those, areas to do those things. So even if you're using your sisters, shout out to the sisters, or your husband or your family, just get whatever it is
Structure,
you're weak
like
at.
you said
Structure, whatever it is you're weak at, get. Now I even get my children involved.
Absolutely.
Because they're at that age anyway. So, wherever you feel that you're lacking in, get the support. Don't focus on the lack. Oh, I can't sell. And you tell yourself that over and over again and you're surprised why you can't sell. Because you've told yourself that, you've told that to yourself so many times.
Wow. So interesting. Finally.
I feel like we had a conference right now.
Mindset about money
one-on-one session.
About money. You know how some people believe that for you to get money, you need to spend money.
Right.
Some people don't believe that.
Oh, wow.
And so they don't invest in personal development. They don't pay money to get trained. They don't do any of all of those things. People don't just believe, but I believe strongly that for you to be able to make money, you have to invest in a lot of, and it takes money to spend to be able to get to where you're going. So don't just touch on a bit those people that do not believe that they have to spend money to make money.
You have
they
to
know
invest
themselves.
in yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you paid money to go into university, didn't you?
Yeah.
If you want to go to Harvard, do you go there and say, excuse me, Harvard, I want to, you have to pay something to get in there. We have to invest in ourselves. Something that my mom always said to me when I was younger and still rings in my head is that she's always talking about your education is your property. Nobody can take it away from you. And I believed it so strongly that even now, acquiring knowledge is like, like the best thing. Like, I know nobody can take it away from you. that investment for you to get to your next level, it's extremely key.
Absolutely.
We don't know it all. So we need that community of people that we can go to and learn from.
Absolutely.
Yes, you will get some things for free, but then again, how many things that you get, how many things do you get for free do you take action on?
Right.
Do you understand what I mean? You can do the Google Mindset for Success,
And
Google
there's so
XYZ.
much there.
There's
You
so
get
many
so much
information,
data.
and you read the information and then, okay.
Moving on. Moving
What
on.
happens? Nothing happens. But if you get an accountability partner, even if they are your children, because when I wanted to write my book, I used my children as my accountability partner. Get an accountability partner, even if you can't afford a proper one to pay or anything. You know, get somebody that would say to you, okay,
Hold
you said
you,
that your
is
business
willing
will
and-
do X, Y, Z. Where are you? And do it to one another as well. So we're not just, you know, but playing everything by hearsay and then, you know, whatever happens, happens. You need to invest in yourself. It's key. Even if it's, you know, start small. And the funniest thing is once you start investing in yourself and you see the power of it and you will want to do more.
Absolutely.
You will want to do more.
Absolutely. On that note, we have 10 seconds.
Wow.
We had a fight. This was a business clinic right here. I feel like standing up. Thank you so much, Chama. We had an amazing chat. We are hoping to bring you again and again and again.
Yay!
Hopefully you have time for us.
Yay!
After you've gone around your 5 states.
I know, right?
All right, NJ, thank you so much. Thank you, Norma.
Thank
All right, so
you for
before we
having
go,
us.
thank you everyone that watched. Before you go, ensure you follow us on Instagram at Wayshow Africa. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our engagements on social media. Like, share, and invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. Now, if you missed today's quote, here it is again. Your words control your life, your progress, your results, even your mental and physical health. You cannot talk like a failure and expect to be successful. This is from Germany, Kent, right? We'll see you guys live at 8 p.m. tomorrow as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.
Bye.
Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria with 351,861 hectares of land, is the authentic home of every tribe and tongue in Nigeria. The state, though small in landmass, is controversially the most populous state in the country. One of the neighborhoods in the state is Obalende, located in Etiosa local government area. The area is strategically a historic site because before the relocation of administrative capital from Lagos to Abuja, it was the seat of power of the military head of state, the Dodon Barrack. Historically, a Royal West African Frontier Force, predominantly Hausa men, were initially camped on the land where the famous King's College is situated. Then there was a need for the use of the land, and the Oba of Lagos was said to have pressured the governor of Lagos to resettle the Hausa men and sold the land in what is now Obalende to the British colonial masters. After resettlement in the purchased land, the Royal West Africa Frontier Forcemen named the place Ibiti Obalewade, which translates to the place where the king drove us to. Obalende, though crowded, is famous for its nightlife and for its suya sport, with a junction popularly called Suya Junction. For ease of administration, former governor of Lagos State, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, created additional 37 local council development areas from the existing 20 local council areas. So the current Obalende is carved out under Ikoyi Obalende Local Council Development Area. Ikorodu town is another historic location in Lagos, located in the northeast area of the state along the Lagos Lagoon and shares a boundary with Ogun State. Currently, the town houses Ikorodu local government area and 5 local council development areas. Kabiru Shotobi is the king of Ikorodu, traditionally known as Ayogbunre of Ikorodu, who ascended the throne from October 24, 2015. The name Ikorodu came about from people whose ancestors descended from the Remo stock of Yoruba tribe who came to settle on a plateau and named it Ikorodu, a shortened word from Oko Odu, which literally means Odu, farm. The current metro area population of Ikorodu in 2021 is 989,000, a 5.44% increase from 2020. Trading, farming, and manufacturing are some of the things Ikorodu is known for. Ikeja is the capital of Lagos State, formerly called Akeja. It was named after a deity of the Awori people of Ota, who originally settled there. The area was invaded for slaves until the mid-19th century. Ikeja, an abbreviation meaning of Ikorodu and Ekpe joint administration, was coined by colonial administrators for ease of administration. It is the official seat of the governor of the state, where the state secretariat is also located. It is also where the domestic and international airports are located. Its population as of 2006 census is 330,196. Ikeja is home to one of West Africa's largest gadget markets, popularly known as Computer Village, and home to a shopping mall known as Ikeja City Mall, which is the biggest mall in Lagos mainland and also has a cinema. These are some interesting places that make Lagos a world-class destination.
I was just calm. I just kept calm, like, okay, let's see what's going to happen next. And they were there that night till at about 11 or 12 late in the night. And then they brought a bus. So they packed all of us. The bus was empty, like they had removed everything inside the bus. They made us sit. We sat in the bus and we drove. So we drove for a couple of hours. I can't remember how many hours, but like close to 7 hours. So on daybreak, I saw where we got to was like a house, very big house, gated, fenced and all that. And they just dropped us there and turned back. So I was surprised, like, So for the first time, and I had to ask the 4 ladies, the 3 other ladies that we left together, please, do you guys really know where exactly we are going to? Like, this whole thing is really looking blurry to me and I don't understand anything anymore. And they're like, even them too, they are even confused though. And to crown it up, they asked us not to talk to each other. They asked us not to say anything to each other. I don't understand. So I just looked everywhere and saw that, okay, there are batches and batches of people seated at different corners. Okay, so I really need to ask questions. So at that point, when Alhaji came out, like he's one in charge of that house, and then he did say, okay, let's look for something to eat. All through this while we are not eating, and he said we should fix something to eat, and they made one spaghetti that didn't have salt, and it was so very funny. Like, so I just summoned courage. I went to meet the Alhaji. I said, please, sir, I need you to just be open and tell me what exactly is going on. Where am I, first of all? He said, Duruku. I said, where is Duruku? He now said, how do I expect him to be able to explain that Duruku, that is what he knows, this place is Duruku. I said, okay, do you know where exactly I'm going to? Or do you know the person that brought me here? He was like, maybe Libya you they go. I said, Libya. I said, I'm not going to Libya. He said, I still say you be Johnny just come. Like, he said, you don't reach here. The only thing now for you make you they go the place where then they carry you, they go say they go come carry you on tomorrow night. And he refused to say anything afterwards. So I went to sit down and relayed what he said to the other ladies. And everybody became very, very, very like upset and curious, like, okay, let's even find out. So just at that time, there was a lady in the particular room that had like 5 big bags, Ghana Must Go bags, big ones. So she said she was going back to Kano, that she stays in Kano. She sells gold and clothes. She speaks Yoruba. So she was explaining to one of the ladies. So that was the first instance where I started hearing information, and I just didn't want to believe. Honestly, I didn't believe at that point that maybe that is what we are in. But what she explained to the lady was that we are either being transported to Libya for prostitution or Italy. And then the lady said, she told her that no, the person that took us said we are going to Malaysia. And the lady now laughed and said that is what they will tell you, and that this is her 5th time going through this route. That was the same way she was deceived, but she ran away and was able to find someone who helped her, and eventually that was the person she got married to, and now they are doing like illegal business. She goes there, buys stuff, and goes back to Kano to go sell. So I said, no, it cannot be possible. Like, we all agreed that it cannot be possible, because that was not what they told us. Looking at what the first guy told us, what the magician guy told us, what the lady told us, that it cannot be possible, that maybe hers is a different kind of connection. So fast forward from there, they came to pick us the next night in a Hilux, arranged us, and we drove for like 3 days non-stop. Okay, we had 2 stopovers. The first stopover was in a very cold, white place. Like, I have never seen that kind of cold in my life before. I was shivering to the brain. Like, I just couldn't imagine why I was going through this. Like, if these people really want to help me, this is not a way to help someone. You cannot be helping someone and the person is in pain. So, but I couldn't really say much because I was already in it. So we drove for days, and on the 3rd day where we stopped was really looking like, I didn't know what to call the place. There were thousands of people, young ladies, guys, and they were calling it ghetto. This is ghetto. They were calling the particular ghetto. The ghetto had a name, and they said, okay, now we can go and have our bath. So for the first time after 7 days, we're going to 8 days, we're going to have our bath and have change of clothes. So first of all, my concern was to even just let me even have a bath first and find something tangible to eat. So they made rice, we ate. In the midst of eating, I started hearing conversations. So I said, okay, since they said we should not talk to anybody, no problem. I'm going to find out everything I need to find out, and if possible, go back from here. So during conversations, I heard people saying, they will tell you everything possible, that here it is Libya they're taking you to, You either go and work as a housemaid, or you go and work in connection house, all manner of things. And at that point, it really dawned on me that what that lady had said earlier was very true. So the other 3 ladies, 2 of them now came to meet me when I was sitting down. I like, see what I am hearing. I said, okay, even me too. I heard the same thing. And we're like, are we sure we want to continue this journey? So at that point, I was really upset with myself not to have verified whatever information I got. I started crying. I was in pain. Like, why will I be going through this? Like, no. Even if, for crying out loud, this is not help. This is like putting me in a pit where I can't talk, I can't communicate. Now there is no communication, nothing. So I looked around. We were there till the next day, and then there was this particular guy, Mohammed, that was giving out clothes, was calling out names and all. So I walked up to him and said, please, at this junction, I don't think I want to continue this journey. Can you help me? I want to go back home. And then he said, that what I just asked is very dangerous. That if it was yesterday when I came that I said that it would have been, maybe you can manage or think of how to go about it. That already the person that I'm being taken to knows I'm here. Whatever makes me not get to her, he has to be the one to pay for me. I'm like, pay for me as how? He said, somebody paid for you to be brought to her, and pay transit, they pay additional money just to be sure that the person is being carried along. And I was like, okay, so how much does it cost to get up to this point? And if I'm to go back from here, I can actually call them, tell them I don't want to continue this journey and I want to go back home. He said it's either of 2 things. It's either you get home or you don't get home. They might tell you to go. They'll either kidnap you and sell you to a place where you'll never be able to come out from, or they might even kill you. That he would advise me to just go and face my fate, but I should pray that whoever I'm going to go and meet is not a bad person. And I asked that, why did he say so? He said he cannot say anything more. That I'm here, and the only way forward is to move forward. I was like, okay. I was broken. I couldn't even tell the other ladies what he had said. I summoned courage to eventually see. So that night, they put us in a hillock. We're about 36 or 32 of us. And they made us sit in rows in the hillocks. So we drove for like 3 days. We had a couple of stopovers, but I was really choked up because I was seated back in the hillocks. So everybody's weight was resting on me, and it was hell for me. I couldn't breathe at some point. My legs were dead. I couldn't move. Even when we stopped, I took like minutes. Most of us took like minutes to even be able to stand up. And I was like, no. But even if I were to travel by road, he did say it was going to be at some point. At least by now, the traveling by road should have stopped. And that was so I remembered what the other guy said at the where we were, that there's no flight, anything. They deceived you. Everything they told you was just to cajole you to decide to go, that there is no flight anywhere. You're going by road to wherever you're going to. So at that point, I was just concerned with one thing, which is surviving and coming back home at all cost. So after the first stopover, I became sick a little bit. I started having too many issues. So I decided not to sit in the hillocks again. And then I had to sit at the edge on top of the tire box. And then I had a stick in between my legs. So they made ladies sit inside the hillocks, and then the guys would sit around the hillocks. But because of my previous experience, I had difficulties breathing. I said I wasn't going to sit inside the hillocks again, that I was going to sit at the edge. So I did sit on the edge of the hillocks and had a stick to hold on to, and we drove for another couple of days. The experience in the desert was a it's not something. Sometimes when I think about it, I just smile. My smiling is not that, okay, I'm happy, but I wonder how I was able to pull through. I wonder how I was able to manage my health. I wonder how I was able to cope up mentally, emotionally, thinking about everything I had left back at home, everyone. I kept them in the dark. I didn't really say much. And then thinking about the people who deceived me, like, if you want to help someone, you should help someone and not even put them into more problems. So a lot of things were racing through my mind. I got so discouraged at my own life. I felt really bad that I was impatient. I didn't ask questions. Of all places, why would I be going to Libya to do what? Like, I wasn't even, I couldn't really define the feelings I had then. But at each point, what I always did was to just pray to God that, God, I know that I have done wrong not to have even, look out for my own self. But I am asking for just one thing. Wherever I'm going to, make sure you take me back home, healed and healthy. So we had another stopover. I got beaten along the way by Arab men. I was trying to save someone from getting beaten wrongly, and I got the beating. Difficulty, there was no food, there was no water, the weather was, the sun would be shining and scorching, and the cold was extremely cold. Like, I couldn't really, there was no definition of everything that was going on. I was just bleak and blank. At the point, I was regretting every step from my friend. I started cursing, like, so she knew about this. That was why at the point she disappeared. She didn't really see anything. And even when I asked her about it, she pretended not to know anything about traveling. That this guy didn't tell her anything about traveling. But I'm like, but you introduced me to this guy, so it's not possible for him to come tell me something about traveling and you didn't know. I thought so far and wide to the point where I felt, okay, I know I'm not going to die. I know I'm not going to die. I know I will go back home. And I'm so going to fish these people out and really find out the reason why they ever did such to me. At some point, I became very ill. I had very bad cough because I refused to sit again at that point. We had sat for like 3 days. So all my ties were burnt and peeled from the sitting. And the Hilux, the speed at which the Hilux was moving was really high. It wouldn't stop. At a point, a guy fell off the Hilux and they didn't wait. They didn't wait. The drivers were so mean. We don't understand their language. They don't understand our language. So even when you're beckoning on them to say, oh, something is going on. There was a time a guy was throwing up. He was feeling, okay, I think it was about throwing up. So we're like, okay, maybe if he stops. We tried beckoning on them, and if they come out, the next thing they do is to probably hit you with something, saying all manner of languages we didn't understand. We couldn't speak to them. They couldn't speak to us. It was hell for me. So because my laps were peeled, I couldn't sit again. So I now stood behind the pavement of the main Hilux box. And then that journey was for 5 days. 5 days of cold, 5 days, as in I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe. Like at some point, I would just cry and scream out loud. Like, I wish the sky could even feel my pain. Like, there was no definition to what I was going through. And I just kept crying and crying and crying. After crying, I'll console myself. You're just crying. You see, everybody here, they also have one reason to cry. So they cannot shoulder you and tell you sorry. So you alone will have to shoulder your pain. And that hurt me so bad. Sometimes when people see me talk about the story and I'm not really showing so much emotions, they feel, oh, we're not too sure you went through this. I have said it like 1,000,001 times. It's something I went through, and I can imagine how I had to just tell myself that, come, you have a child back home that you love. You need to be alive to come back to her. That was my source of strength. And the life I really wanted for myself ever before embarking on that journey just kept me going, that I know one day I am going to eventually come back and say this story to people. So at that point, remembering and recalling everything, one question kept popping in my head: why will people not have any other thing to do other than to do a business where you transport people to an unknown country, you lie to them, you deceive them, you promise them heaven and earth, and then put them on a dangerous path where is either they make it or they don't make it, and you will not even tell them any of this. So I was bent on making it to wherever it is. I said to myself, no matter how wicked whoever it is I'm going to go and meet is, I'm going to come back home and know the reason why people really did this problem, this business. On getting to Sabah, Sabah is halfway into Libya. On getting to Sabah, we had a connection house where they put us. We met about 60 ladies in the room, and then the guys also had their room. And they kept adding us. They kept adding. And at a point, I counted, we were about 80 in that room, the ladies' room. The guys were about 40-something. The food was really bad. You know, having to make banku. Now, this is not even the original banku. This is the banku made with flour. Having to make flour like fufu. And then maybe they will serve like 20 plates down. And then everybody will now line up. By the time you're eating, it's as though you're eating stone, you're swallowing stone. The soup was so watery that you won't even, you're not. The very first day I was asking myself, like, I know I had challenges back at home, but my challenges were not so bad that I couldn't even eat a good meal. Like, this is not a meal. So the first day we had that in the night. The next day we had rice, very small portion of the rice was dried. You can imagine when you boil rice and then you open it, you put it in a plate and you just open it down. And because the weather is very cold, so anything you don't keep properly dries up. So by the time you're eating the rice and like it's like you're eating rubber. So at some point we just sit there crying out that no, this is not life. This is not, why are we having to go through this? I would cry every night. I would beg God that please, can I just vanish from here? Okay, at the point I was begging for death to come because it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. And within ourselves, some girls were like, they were really radical about it, and they were like, no, we need to tell them. It's either they change the way they are doing this food, or maybe we should even take up the cooking by ourselves. So I thought of it. I was like, okay, that's true. So if already I'm going through hell and then food now has to be a problem. So we waited for the ghetto man, the person in charge of the ghetto, like we waited for him to come. We kept shouting, when is he coming? When is he coming? We don't even know why we are here. We don't even know what we are doing here. So at that time we had stayed a week. We don't know why we are being kept here. We don't know who even put us here. We don't even know anything. Nobody is saying anything. So when the connection man did come, we took turns to ask questions. I noticed everybody was just asking questions. Where are we going to? Where are we going to? And all. So I did ask him. I said, okay, first of all, why are we here? Do you have an answer, or do you know the reason why we are here? And then he said, you are here because you're being transported to your burger. And then we now asked, what is the meaning of a burger? He said, a burger is a person that paid for you to be transported from Nigeria. So we're like, is that the reason why we are being given bad food? Like when you're given something to swallow and it's already hurting your throat, like practically almost everybody had sore throats from that banku. And it was like, okay, he doesn't know anything about the way the food was being prepared, but that this place is just a transit, and the reason why we are here is because the road is bad, there is war, and they cannot transport us. It's very risky, and that we might meet rebels on the way, and rebels, they either rape, kill, abduct. And we're like, okay, so for how long are we going to be here? He said, doesn't know until the war is over. So if it takes 1 month, if it takes 2 months, but just know that for every food you are eating, for every extra thing you collect here, your money is piling up. It is your burger that is paying. And when you get to wherever you're going to, you have to work to pay your burger back. So we now, 5 of us volunteered to be cooking our food by ourselves. And we were there for extra 2 weeks and some days. In total, we were there for 3 weeks and 5 days. And then we started the journey to Libya. That was where I had a near-death experience. So we were somewhere, we were kept in a particular house where they locked us. There was no light, nothing. And then we were pressed. We had traveled, we had drove for like 2 days. And they put us there. So, but before we entered, we were already beckoning on this boat that we want to ease, we want to ease. They didn't even want to listen. They were just pushing us like, how can you people just be pushing somebody like animals? We don't even know where we're going. Like, this is very unthinkable. So I held that urine. I held that urine for good 2 days. So the next morning when they came, now see them begging that, please, we want to wee. So the man was, arrogantly, he was talking, and he went to get a gallon, like this aluminum gallon. We now looked at it that, how a guy can pee in this, but how can a lady pee in this? And from the descriptions he was giving us, he meant that we shouldn't allow the pee to spill on the floor. So we said, okay, all the guys should pee first and the ladies will take turns to pee, which was what happened. And somehow pee actually spilled. So by the time he was coming back, when he opened the door, so the pee, pee wouldn't, and you can imagine pee that had stayed, the smell, it was awful. He was angry. He went back, he went to get a stick, and he was holding like 3 different things. So I was wondering, what does this guy want to do? At that point, everybody had their heart in their mouth, because the moment you see them holding anything, they can hit you anywhere. They can hit you anywhere. So he was now asking who spilled pee on the floor. They were pointing to the wrong person. So I was just watching initially. They were pointing to and he was going to start beating her. So I was not like trying to say, no, she wasn't the one. You see, when that spring landed on my head, this spring they use in water closet. Very strong and thick. And all I knew that was going on was that I was screaming at the top of my voice with both hands on my head, because it actually hit me on my head. And when I gave birth, like 8 months, when I was 8 months pregnant, I fell in the bathtub and had a slit on my head from the tiles in the bathroom. So sometimes that part of the head still hurts. So when he hit that spring on my head, it was exactly on that spot, and he did it like 3 times. He kept hitting the spring on me. I remember crying till I didn't know what was going on. And for the first time, when they say people have transition, I always wonder. I knew I was just lost somewhere. I knew something was going on to my body. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what. I was just blank. But I could hear myself crying. I could hear myself crying, and I was just crying, as in, bitter tears. You cry bitter tears, and you just have to still be the one to tell yourself, you have to stop. So by the time I woke up, the other ladies were like, you need to see the way they were rejoicing, because they said they didn't believe I was going to still come back to life. The head was actually bleeding at that point. And at that point when I woke up, they had cleaned it, they had tried everything. I remember when they were pouring water on me. I remember when somebody was tapping me and everything, and I was like, they started explaining what actually happened. That the moment he hit that spring on my head the second time, I started screaming, and they noticed I was bleeding, and I cried, and I just went mute. And they were telling him that she's not talking, and the man just told them, bara, 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 and he went away. He said they were praying, they were begging God that this girl must not die. She has been like a source of strength to us. If she dies here, what's going to happen and all that. It actually took me 4 to 5 hours before I woke up. And at that point, I had lost strength, I had lost everything. So there was a lady we met in that place that had a phone. So that was the first time I had to beg her. I'm sure it was because as a result of what had happened, she did not allow any other person use her phone. They would normally not allow you use their phones. So I couldn't even tell my mom what I was going through, because there's no how she would hear my voice like that and not panic. And I know the kind of mother I have. So I called my boss that I had worked with in the FRSC and told him, this is what has happened to me. And I don't even know where. Yeah, we're in Trauna at that time. And he said, but why didn't you say anything before leaving? And then I told him that they told us not to say anything. The moment they say don't say anything, you should have known it was trafficking. I know that you're naive and you do not know anything, but you should have told me. Because he was now like a father to me. Even after I had stopped working with the FRSC then, he was like a father to me. He said he was going to try his best to see what he can do, but that still being on transit, there is probably little or nothing he can do at that point. So I'm sure he tried calling back, because the lady kept cutting a particular call. I wouldn't know, and I didn't want to disturb her. So at that point, I really cried. I cried. That was the only thing I could do. I just cried. Like, I have never suffered like this in my life before. Even if I'm to suffer anything, it shouldn't be suffering from a decision to have a better life. So long and short was, we got into Libya and they kept hiding us. They lay us in hillocks, cover us with tarpaulin, hiding, running, making sure you're not seen, number of choking, you have to be there, sometimes 3 hours, 2 hours, you won't be able to breathe, you can practically feel life leaving you, you're sniffing each other's air, and in the midst of all of this, some people will be fighting and quarreling and beating themselves. I just couldn't imagine why. And even in that, some people decided they wanted to go do this thing, like they wanted to travel this way. I didn't know anything like this existed. I didn't know anything of such even happens. Finding myself in it was like the biggest dream I never wished to have again. So, found ourselves in Libya, and the first thing they did, seeing Nigerian girls and women, I was like, okay, so finally, we have gotten to our destination. So, what's next? Entering that house, I knew this is going to be a big problem for me. Because already, I was upset. I was ready to yell at anybody. And then the first thing they made us do was to strip ourselves. I was like, okay. So I did remember at some point in the journey where a particular guy, we met him somewhere, and he also gave us a hint of how it actually goes. He said they're taking you to the garage. And then I now asked, what is the garage? He said the garage is a place where they take Nigerian girls to. And that's the most common place that they take them to. And they're going to take you to a connection house. And what they do normally in a connection house is sex trade. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that one. He said, you will not have a choice. He said they'll make life hell for you. You will not have a choice. So he now said that if eventually I get there, and that is what it is, that I have an option to run away, but that is very risky. And then he did give me his number and said that I must not write that number anywhere, that if they see that number with me, they will beat the living daylight out of me, because they will know that I have contacted a burger as well. So he made me cram that number. Two of us, we crammed that number to be sure that we didn't forget the number. But you see all the experiences we went through afterwards. At a point, I couldn't even remember the number anymore. And then I remember what he said. He said, you just have to help yourself remain strong. And while they asked us to strip ourselves, I was like, for whatever reason, I'm coming to work for someone. Why would you ask me to strip myself? So they said they were searching, maybe you have a number written somewhere in form of a tattoo, or maybe you wrote the number somewhere and you hid it in your clothes, or anything. They just wanted to be sure you didn't have any information whatsoever. They collected my phone, went through my phone, and that night they called us one after the other. So, what were you doing in Nigeria? And then I explained, and the man said, okay, now this is the woman and her husband. The man said, okay, I can see. And then the first question he asked me was, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I was dumb. Like, he said, you have something good doing. What are you doing here? I said, it was a friend that said there's traveling opportunity, and said, there's no need to explain. You are here, you are here. Oh, no choice near. Your own is to make sure you work on time and pay and get out of here. So the wife now asked, what did they tell you that you're coming here to do? I said, first of all, this is not where they told me I'm coming to, and they told me I'm going to be working in a hair factory and a restaurant. And then she laughed and said, that is not it. That this is what they do here. That did I see all those other girls outside? I said, yes. He said, what do you think they are doing? I said, I don't really know, but I saw a couple of girls sitting down. He said, they're working for their money. He said, that is the same thing you're going to do. And I was like, I don't understand. He said, yes, that's the same thing you're going to do. So the earlier, the better for you. I bluntly refused, because this is that wasn't what I was told in Nigeria. And for no reason, why would I leave Nigeria to come to Libya, to come and prostitute with my body to make money? How much money do I want to make? So I felt that I was doing myself good by trying to be as open as possible. I was very plain and blunt, and then she just kept laughing. I was like, but yeah, nobody will tell you. So she said, okay. And the same thing with every other girls, because we had agreed that, okay, if eventually we find out that that is what we're actually being taken there to do, that we are not going to agree to it, because that was not the agreement. And for whatever reason, we cannot just decide to leave Nigeria and go and prostitute somewhere. So she was like, she knows that girls that they just bring from Nigeria are very stubborn, that she will give us 3 days to go and decide. But in that 3 days, we should be watching at the other girls to see how they actually go about what they do. And the first day went by, second day went by. I vowed to myself, I said, nowhere in heaven's name will I live this kind of a life. Like, it was so absurd. I was grieved, I was bitter, I was angry, all manner of words, because looking at all the experience in the journey, I almost died, and then all for what? To come here and come and use my body to work to pay someone. I'm like, it didn't make sense. I cried every minute I remembered. And on the third day, she did call us to ask us if we were ready. I told her that she has to look for another job for me. And then she said, okay, since I don't want to take it easy, since I don't want to take it the easy way, that they'll show me how they also go the hard way. So that night, we didn't even know what she meant. That night, a girl was brought in, and we watched more than 5 people beat that girl black and blue. Wow. She had also refused the connection house where she was taken to. She had also refused to do the same connection house job. It was actually a burger that brought her, but they took her somewhere else. So they said she was being stubborn where she is, or where she was, and then they brought her back to the burger. Madam, come and take your girl, give us back our money. She said she knew they work. They beat that girl to stupor. They beat her to the point where I sat where I was and I told myself, I said it out, like, these people are not humans. Like, why? On seeing the way they beat that lady, I was like, so I will also come to this point where they will have to beat me to say, yes, I will do it. I said, I'd rather die. Because at the point when they beat her, she was like, okay, Mache, I will do it, I will work, I will do it. I was like, so this is what I will go through. So for some reasons, I didn't know, they took the other 3 ladies out of where I was. It was now left with only me in that house that came together. So after a week, she then asked me that, what else can I do? I said, I cook. She was like, okay. She gave me pepper and oil. I said, go and make stew with it. I made the stew. She told them to teach me how to make banku. I made the banku. She was like, okay, not bad for a start. So first of all, your first job here is you're going to be cooking for everybody. My heart was like, okay, finally she has agreed to give me something else. So another week went by and she said, Orobo, I don't know where one day she just called me by that name and said, for her, that is what she will be calling me. Although she gave me another name, Success. So everybody calls me Success, but she calls me Orobo. And then she looked at me and said, Orobo, are you ready to work now? I was dumbfounded and I couldn't say anything. And in my head, I was like, if it is to die here, I think I'm ready to do that. But to use my body here, I will not. So 3 weeks went down. And all of these weeks, nobody even came in one day to say, this person, how she be, who she be, and all. So after the 3rd week, a man came in, a matured Nigerian man, a Yoruba man. He came in and did ask to take me home. And at first she refused, that she wasn't going to let him take me home, but he begged and all of that. So when we got home, he sat me down and said, I didn't bring you here to come and sleep with you. I brought you here to teach you one lesson that will help you if you must live where you are. He said he noticed the way I was being questioned, the way I was being bullied and all that. That is the way the woman does. And that I'm even still seeing the better side of her. That she's a really, really hard person. And when she's ready to go hard, she goes all the way. He said, you see where you are, there's no shortcut. There is no way out other than for you to actually make money, pay them before you leave. And if you are not even careful, you'll be done paying them, you will not know, you'll still be there playing a fool, working for them. So you have to be smart. I see that you are innocent, but then yet you are smart. So I need you to wake up that smart instinct in you and know what to do to live there as soon as possible. He said he was going to be going to Italy in 3 weeks. From that time, that was the reason why the woman refused to give me to him initially, because normally that is the way some men will come there, take girls and they run away with them and they don't eventually get their money. So he said, but he's going to teach me how to make it fast. That if I work with my body to pay them, they'll split that money in 2. But if I'm doing something extra to pay them, they would record the money just the way it is. Say, for example, I sleep with someone and the man pays me 5,000 naira. They're not recording 5,000 naira. They're recording 2,500. But if maybe I sell something or I save up money and I give them that same 5,000 naira cash at hand, they'll record the 5,000 naira for me. So the best for me is to think of something I can start doing to get extra money, which is begging. So when these guys come, I have to beg them for extra penny. Or if they ask for anything beyond what I'm supposed to give them, like in normal duty, then I should ask for extra cash. Those extra cash are the extra stipends I'm supposed to be saving up to give them. I cried my ass out that night. So he said, you see, she's even giving you grace. He said, it's because she likes you. That this woman, she's naturally not the patient type, and the moment you're proving hard, she'll go hard with you and you'll give up. So the earlier the better for you. But I felt that he should just reach out to me and teach me something that would help me. So I eventually spent 2 years and 9 months in Libya altogether. I spent a year and 8 months in the Connection House, and that a year and 8 months was hell for me. So after 7 months, I tried reaching out. So at the point they released a phone for the girls in the house to call their customers, to know when they're coming, to know if you're having someone who is coming to come and sleep with you over, or someone who is going to come and take you out and all. So I begged one of the girls in charge one day to allow me buy airtime on the phone to call. So I did call my dad, and my dad was really bitter, and he said the only way he knows I can get out of that place is for me to find my way to the Nigerian embassy and tell them that I want to come back home. So I waited for 3 days to actually get that report, because he didn't know what to do at that point. He said, okay, can I call you back? So I said, I don't know, but I'll try and talk to the person in charge of this phone so that whenever you call, they give me the call to answer, which was what actually happened. And somehow, I don't know how they got to know, but they found out that I called the Nigerian embassy, and they beat hell out of my life. They beat hell, everybody in the house. Plus, at that time, my burger wasn't in Libya at that time. She was in Nigeria. It was the husband that was at home then. The husband beat me. All the girls in the house beat me. So I wanted to run away. Oh, I'm trying to be smart. And this and that. After all, they knew that from the very first day I came, the woman was calling me a virus because she knows that I'm kind of smart. I will try to play smart. So from that time, they locked me out from phone. They stopped allowing me go out. It was I can't start recounting experiences, day-to-day activities, how I felt. At some point, I would just practically pray that, God, please, when I sleep this night, don't allow me to wake up in the morning. I slept very late, and I'm always the first to wake up. So after a while, I started gaining confidence, like, no, even if I foolishly allowed myself into this, I should be able to still bring myself out of it. So I changed my attitude and started being very smart. I called up as much information as I could. I got to, I became very nice. I always learned lessons, and, I was trying my possible best to see beyond the problem I was in and was already thinking of a way out. So I had a couple of guys who would just naturally like me, and they would tell me, you see, when you're ready to leave this place. Some guys went as far as asking, okay, madam, how much is this girl's money? Let's pay. She would intentionally double the money and make them run away. So when she did that the first time, the second time, I just knew that, okay, so this woman is actually being wicked. But not to worry, I'm actually still going to live here. So when it was about a year and 5 months, I sat down one day and calculated how much I had paid, minus all the subtraction. If you do anything, she'll beat you and subtract your money. Maybe 50 dinars, maybe 100. If you quarrel with anybody, maybe 200 dinars. If you fight, maybe 500 dinars and all. So by the time I calculated and I saw that the money had gotten up to like 5,000 dinars, which was actually what that man told me. He said normally it's supposed to be 2,500 dinars, but burghers are always wicked. They want to collect even double of that. So sometimes you have to pay up to like 5,000 to 6,000 dinars before they will let you go. And some will still not let you go except you fight for your freedom. So when I calculated, and I had calculated about 7,000 dinars, I was like, okay, I think my time here is up. And then I started asking for freedom. She initially refused and said that I was not done paying her. So I said, okay. So in 2016, when she was going to come to Nigeria in September, she gave me freedom in August. That was a year and 8 months. She said, okay, that now I am free to work for my own money. But whatever money you're working, the same way they were splitting in two, it's just that this other half now, instead of them collecting it, they'll give it to you. Sometimes they may not even give it to you. They tell you to keep it with them. Maybe you want to send some money to Nigeria. So I said, okay, no, that I didn't want to keep it with them, that I actually wanted to live there. She said, I cannot live there until she comes back. I have to wait for her to come back to Libya because she had had a new child and she wanted to come home. I said, okay. So throughout that month, that September, I kept having dreams that if I don't leave that place, I probably might not have my life again. The dream came like about 5 to 6 times, and then I just summoned courage to open up to the husband, to tell him that I think I'm very sick and I want to go take care of myself. This is about a year and 9 months now. From the day one up until now, I worked every day and slept nothing more than 3 to 4 hours that I needed to take care of myself. And he understood with me because several times in between, I had fallen sick, like so bad that at some point it took drips to like resuscitate me back and all. And the man also knew that I was very, very hardworking. Like at the point, he would always tell the wife, stop beating this girl. Like, you need to stop, even if you're beating every other person, but you see this one, stop beating her. And the next thing is, she will say, oh, okay, so now you're sleeping with my husband. My husband is fighting for you. This, that. I know you are hardworking, but you must be sleeping with my husband for him to be fighting me to stop beating you. And then she will intensify whatever thing she was doing. So, but I kept bearing them up. At that point, I made up my mind. So there's this Ghanaian guy who had already told me that whenever I'm ready, that he had an apartment he doesn't really stay in, that he goes to the village to work. Sometimes he doesn't come home 2-3 months, that he could give his space up for me to stay there, take care of myself. So when I did mention to him that I wanted to go and that I was sick, he did say, okay, that I should call the wife and tell her, which I did. And then she was like, so I cannot wait for her to come back. I told her that no, I can't wait, that I'm very, very sick and I needed to go take care of myself. She said, okay, I should hand over the account to the husband and I can leave, which I did. That was in October 2016. I did that in October 2016. In November, sorry, that was November 2016. I did that in November 2016. I had barely stayed a month in the new house where I was staying. I'd stayed a month and I was taking treatment, eating well and all that. And I heard she came back. She did actually call me to come and cook for her, but I refused going. And then on the 2nd of January in 2017, there was a massacre in the garage. The massacre was bloody. I think they were counting 300 bodies and they were still counting as at the time we got the news. The bombing and from where I was, it's not so far a distance, it's a bit far. We could hear the bombs, we could hear the gunshots. Part of the things we face like every day, you don't sleep, like gunshots. There are some bombs that you practically feel like the house is going to be uprooted from the ground. There was a day that we were running and a stray bullet, and at that point in January when that massacre happened, like 6 girls in that house actually died, and for me, I felt, oh, this is God just saving me. I guess this is what God was talking to me about when I kept seeing those dreams, and I made up my mind I was going to just go back home. Um, 2 months out of there, I called a friend and told her that if there was a way she could help me find money, I needed to come back home. And she was the one that told me about the voluntary return, that I needed to find my way to the UN's office or whichever way and all that. So I remembered contacting the Nigerian embassy. So I did keep the number. So I then asked questions because I was now going to a church. I then asked questions and they said, okay, that I needed to get to the IOM office. I had challenges locating them in the first place, but eventually I got to the IOM office and then they gave me a date to come back to visit. I did drop all my information and then they said, okay, that in 2 weeks' time I should go to the Nigerian embassy to go get a travel document. And after getting a travel document, they will not let me know when to come back and I'll be ready to go to Nigeria. So that was all, and up until then I just kept managing, kept believing God that it was going to work well, and eventually it did work well, and that was how I came back to Nigeria August 28th in 2017. And for me, that was the best decision I could make. Though it was painful that I just went to suffer my life out for almost 3 years and no gain, nothing, and then I'm back, having to come back empty-handed. And up until today, both the travel agent, both the guy that introduced me to the travel agent and the lady, none of them has been found. And life hasn't been easy getting back to my feet. Like, I was in bad depression for like almost 2 years. It was really bad coming back to see that, okay, first of all, I have lost money, I have lost friends, I have lost business, and then having to resume my motherly duties almost immediately because children wouldn't hear, oh, I had a bad experience. And then having to reintegrate back into the community, it was really difficult. Like, it just took the grace of God, and it took my kind of strong personality to just keep resuscitating me, and I just kept believing that I'll definitely be who I really wanted to be. I didn't really need to think about the pain, but then the lesson can never be forgotten. The experience can never be forgotten. The trauma, the pain, and everything can never be forgotten. But then one thing can be done, which is moving ahead and making use of all the experiences. And then I did find answers to my quest as to why people did trafficking as a business. And I think that apart from poor economy, some people are just ignorant and they don't really care. They just can do anything just to make money.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
He suffered equally confessed.
Now 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshukeye. Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. By no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild. This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event
on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
Hello, welcome to our program, Timeless Conversations. Today, my guest is a top-flight town planner, a former commissioner for physical planning and urban development in Lagos State, a man who recently headed the tribunal that looked into the collapsed building in Ikoyi. He's also an author, a happily married man, a grandfather. Town planner Olutoyin Ayinde. You're welcome.
Good morning, sir.
Okay.
Good morning, viewers.
It's good to have you with us.
It's a privilege to be here.
Let me say this about you. What strikes me the most about you is your humility and openness. And it makes me to ask, who is Toyin Ayinde?
Well, Toyin Ayinde is Toyin Ayinde.
Yes.
But I must say that I was brought up under a disciplined parenthood, and who taught us to know that what is it that you have that you were not given. So, and if you were given, why do you behave as if you are really the one that authored everything? So that points to the fact that we have to be humble in anything that we do, knowing that you will not be the first to do what you are doing, and you are not about to be the last. So, and I believe that anywhere we find ourselves in life is a test to wherever we are going again. So if you fail that test today, you may not be able to withstand tomorrow. So that's how I have grown as Toyin Ayinde, which makes me a little bit different from my peers, because it's not the way that my peers will look at things that I'll look at them. So many things that people clamor for, that they think is the end of the world, I just rationalize and ask myself, what is it in life that I will exchange my life for? You know, and I do not see anything. So it makes me humble, giving respect to the other person, knowing that he can as well be occupying the seat I'm occupying now. So that's where I believe life should run.
Yeah, now you see, as someone who finds himself in society, the home prepared you for the society.
True.
Were you caned when you were younger?
Oh, I was caned. I happened to be firstborn in the family, and you know what firstborns go through.
I don't know.
You know, okay, so you're not one. The truth is that parents, generations ago, did not go through any school of parenting. So each parent brought up their own child the way they were brought up. So it's like a wumble and fumble thing. So I went through a dad who, if he promised you he was going to cane you,
you got caned.
If he hasn't caned you in 2 weeks, don't think he forgot. He's just looking for the appropriate time. In fact, you could be sleeping and he will wake you up with that cane.
But going through that, did you find yourself detesting him?
Initially as a child. Later, I grew up to rationalize. In fact, there was a time I was saying, okay, this man actually wanted me to be a good person, but he didn't know how to go about it. I'll give you an example. You know that when I was younger, I was a stammerer, chronic stammerer.
Really?
And I remembered my mom caning me to say, stop stammering. Stop stammering. One day I had the opportunity to say this publicly, and she was there. I said, may God forgive her.
Amen.
You know, but how did I get over stammering?
Yes.
I learned on my own. I discovered that you stutter more when you are aggravated.
Yes, true.
When you are angry, when you are in an argument.
Yes.
So I learned not to get involved in arguments. I learned not to raise my voice. Then I learned to speak slower, to pick my words. And eventually,
deliberately,
I began to develop. So I now find people call me an orator, and I look at myself.
Where is that coming from? Now, compare your upbringing to what you have done with your children. Did you cane or spank, as we say these days now?
Yes, I did. You know, I was brought up in a Christian home.
Yes.
So the Bible says that
bring up a child.
There's a foolishness
in the heart of a child. It is a cane,
the rod of correction.
Yeah.
But the rod really doesn't have to be cane.
Yeah.
But what most of us did was cane. But it didn't get far as I experienced, because then I had begun to go for parenting classes. Not formally, sometimes you just learn it in the church. But I went for leadership studies.
Yes.
And one of the books that made an impact in my life was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, written by Stephen Covey.
Stephen Covey, yes.
And it was there that I learned that by the time I'm using a cane on my child, I'm trying to enforce what I was unable to normally pass to him. So it made me realize that, this thing is about communication. So I began to improve on my communication. In fact, one of the things I first did was to have a one-on-one with one of my children, with each of my children.
Yes.
So I'll take them, just go to an eatery, feel relaxed, and I'll be discussing. In fact, last month we were in UK. My last born graduated in University of Manchester, his master's degree.
Okay.
And when we got there, guess what? He said, Dad, you remember that when we were younger, you were taking my elder siblings for discussions. And he said it was going to be my turn, but he never came. He said, now we are going to discuss.
Which is very instructive. Like, communication is very important.
Yes.
Right. Let's hold it there. We're going to take a break now for a short while. When we're back, we'll continue our talk with Mr. Toyin Ayinde. Welcome back. We're still on Timeless Conversations. My guest is Town Planner Toyin Ayinde. Recently, you served as chairman of the tribunal into that collapsed building in Ikoyi. I know you have presented your report, and without asking you to divulge anything that's already divulged, what basically did you come out with as a person about the building industry?
Well, thank you for that question, and I think I would also like to thank the Lagos State government for the privilege to have been appointed as chairman of that tribunal. And I also want to thank every member of that tribunal. They were all accomplished professionals who knew their onions. They were all people who couldn't be manipulated. Let me say that we did that assignment gratis.
Okay.
Yeah, we were not offered any sitting allowance. We didn't collect any sitting allowance. I think that probably gave us the courage to look into the issue realistically and come up with recommendations. What I take away from that assignment is that we can't pass the buck. Can't pass the buck. The buck has to stop on someone's table. And there are levels of tables like that where we have not taken cognizance of the value of life. And that's why the summary of our report was that building collapse in Nigeria is rooted in the falling ethics and value systems of Nigeria. So over time, we have lost touch with what is right. You even have to be defending what is right now before what is wrong. You know, one of the things we said as we were submitting the report was that members of the tribunal would need government protection because in a few weeks' time, they will probably be the villains, and those who did the wrong thing will be praised. And it's because we haven't learned how to call a spade a spade. When you see somebody who says this is the real issue, these are the culprits, what people end up asking is, why did he discover the culprits? So it gives you some kind of challenge of the kind of system we're running. But if the building industry must restore confidence We must embrace professionalism. We must embrace a value system that puts value on the Nigerian life.
But let me interrupt you. If we talk of the buck stopping somewhere, and we want to put value to the Nigerian life and also be professional, what would you say causes buildings to collapse? They don't need to be high-rise buildings like that. Different types of buildings, a 2- or 3-story building just collapsed recently in Butemeta.
Yeah.
You know, why do buildings collapse?
Well, buildings will collapse because of the failure to take a decision. And now it depends on who was meant to take that decision. You know, let's imagine it's a building under construction.
Yes.
There are professionals who are meant to take a decision. Layers. A contractor is supposed to have professionals working. There are consultants meant to supervise the contractor. There are government agencies meant to monitor. So anytime any of these ones fail, buildings may collapse when the wrong things are done. But because everyone has responsibility, we should be able to trace who dropped the ball.
Yes.
And anyone who dropped the ball should be penalized for dropping the ball. I think that's what is missing.
Because there's no punishment meted out to anyone.
That's the missing point. That's the missing point.
I know that in our environment there is a housing deficit, a very serious one across the nation, particularly so in urban cities like Lagos.
Yeah.
Now, around us, people just buy a piece of land and start building. Should it be so?
Now, the first thing about building is that we have a wrong model in Nigeria. And I've been privileged to say this in 25 states of the Federation. First, I think our governance model is wrong.
We'll come to that.
Yes, because government, and I'm saying government, I'm beginning from government and governance, because by research, I learned that 3,300 BC, before Christ, cities were planned by government itself. It's part of the responsibility of government to plan. So what does government do? Government takes care of the generality of the people. But we haven't really enjoyed that in Nigeria. Most times, government takes care of a section or a few people. Now, where government takes care of the generality of the people, individuals rarely build houses for themselves. So in UK, for example, there is a public housing policy.
Yes.
And government, buildings, residential buildings are either put up by corporations, cooperatives, or by councils. So you can have a council flat.
And you can't even renovate without permits.
No, and you didn't build it yourself.
Yeah.
It was built by reputable organizations. So you don't have the government persuading land to individuals because governance is in place. But where there is lack of governance, where government is not taking responsibility for public housing, then it persuades land to individuals. And then you have individuals go to the markets, going to buy cement, going to buy iron rod, which doesn't happen in many places. It's the same thing that we have for public transportation.
Yeah.
Where there is no public transportation, there will be so many commercial vehicles on our roads. Where there is no public water supply, there will be so many boreholes. So, and the more people you have doing that thing, the less control, the less enforcement you are able to do. I think that's what has brought us to this level. You know, there are too many people constructing who don't know about construction.
Yeah.
There are too many quacks in the business who have no business being there. And unfortunately, you know what, like I was telling the Association of Consulting Architects of Nigeria last week, I was asking, what is it that quacks tell the citizens, that the citizens believe in them more than the professionals?
Probably because they are cheaper?
Maybe, but it's also at a great risk.
Yes.
Yes. And because we have all lost value, a man puts the cost of building higher than his own life. Because that's what I think is happening.
Yes.
So there's need for a rediscovery of our values. That's the way I think we will.
But you know, I also think that there's need for courage in enforcing standards.
True, and enforcement of standards, like I said, is about layers. Enforcement of standards will cut across professional bodies. So when anybody offends, I'm a town planner. If I do any sharp practice, it should be possible to report me to my institute. My institute, for example, has an ethics and disciplinary committee, and I should be able to face that committee, and then if I'm wrong, I'm penalized. And people shouldn't be looking at it from the fact that, oh, okay, he was penalized because he's not Yoruba speaking, he's penalized because he's Igbo and things like that. So all of those things have to be removed. We have to learn, government has to learn to also enforce discipline.
Okay.
So it's not just about professional bodies. Government must also do that. And government more, because government is the one that really has that capacity to put everybody in their place, especially if it's done within the legal framework.
We'll come back. When we're back, we'll continue our talk. This time, we'll be talking about the quality of workmanship within the industry and what has happened to us in Nigeria regarding personnel and training and even preparing our youth to participate in the industry where you specialize. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Welcome back. We're still on Timeless Conversations with Town Planner Ayinde. We were talking about the quality of workmanship. You enter a building that's just been finished, you see the lines are not straight, you see the screening is imperfect and all that. And then you say, who are the people who did this? Or say, oh, somebody, I was advised to bring in people from Ghana, from Republic of Benin, but I thought it was too expensive. These Nigerian people are not. What has happened to our trade centers, to all of these government training institutes? Why can't even the private sector set up proper training institutes for the various levels of the building industry?
I think over time we've lost touch with training personnel in Nigeria. In those days there used to be the City and Guilds exams.
Yes.
For craftsmen, masons, and things like that. I'm not sure we have that anymore. I recollect that a few years ago, there was a young man, Shegun Sholade or something like that, who you know was trying to work on artisans and craftsmen, working in collaboration with the Nigerian Institute of Building to see that craftsmen are properly trained, because indeed and in truth, even housekeeping hands in hotels, we don't even have them anymore. You know, so and these are vocations that really need training. I think we got carried away by the certificate syndrome. Everybody wants to have a BSc, everybody, and so we do not have dignity of labor anymore. So no one is willing to learn some of these things. In fact, they probably prefer to be bike riders than some of these things. But the truth is, I was in Ghana a few years ago, I think in 2007, where we were designing an estate for a client, and the client insisted that he wanted me to visit Ghana to see an estate, Trasaco Valley or something like that. And when I got there, what I first saw, the masonry, I said, the bricklayers who worked on my mom's house would do a better job than this. Until I saw their finishing. One of the things you will find out about them is that when it comes to finishing, they are never in a hurry. If you flip that back to us, we are always in a hurry. So, because the longer it takes for you in finishing a job, the better the quality. So we see that, and that's why the science of project management came. You know, we don't manage our projects well. We are always in a hurry to complete them. Sometimes those projects are to score political points. So rather than do them well, do them quick. I've had a governor say that we are doing this road, I'll deliver it in 3 months. The design probably has not even been done. And you don't know the intricacies of those things. So I think we just must understand that there are processes. And if we must get good results, we must pass through those processes and do due diligence, which is what we're lacking right now.
So what's the way out?
The way out is to ramp up things like what the Nigerian Institute of Building is doing, trying to train. You know, what they're trying to do is concentrate on those artisans and craftsmen and build up a reserve of such people, so that when you need their services, you can be sure that when you go to this body, they will give you people who are qualified. And by the time they are doing it, if we can replicate that in states of the Federation, cities and the Federation, then we should be able to put back quality workmen. And then our economy really has to support the building industry. It is said to be one of the largest employers of labor. You know, so if the building industry is vibrant, people will also be able to stay there and earn their living.
Yeah, still talking professions. Now, you are currently the president of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners. Do people really appreciate the work of a town planner in this environment?
The way I put it is that Nigerians generally do not understand what town planning is. And I've had to say this before about 8 or 9 governors that I have met, that what people think is town planning in Nigeria is exactly what is not town planning.
So what is town planning?
Town planning is putting order into human settlements. But we will not understand this until we understand how a human body is. A human body has systems. Circulatory system, respiratory system, digestive system, reproductive system, skeletal system. That's how the human settlement too is. Every human settlement has a circulatory system. has the road system. It has a productive system. The industry, it has a respiratory system, the recreational areas that allows the environment to breathe. It has an excretory system, digestive to excretory system. That's the waste management, how you produce your waste and how you manage it. So these are the things that have to do with planning. So every human settlement, every town, city or village needs to first be planned on how is it going to grow, just like a human life is planned. You didn't become a broadcaster by error. No, nobody becomes anything by error. You plan it. You work towards the subjects that lead you there. Many children want to become medical doctors. When it becomes time to choose their subjects and they are choosing English literature, geography, Christian religious knowledge, French, they will tell that child, you know what, you can never become a medical doctor. It's the same thing. When you want a city to be organized, you plan it before you now begin to put buildings there. But in Nigeria, it's the buildings we know. So when we go for building plan approval, that's what we call town planning. Now, a building plan that is sitting on an unplanned area is like putting something on nothing. And that's why we will never get the right result. So we must start first by planning our city system, giving it a theme. What type of city do we want? Is it an industrial city? Is it an educational city? Is it one that you will know for agricultural production? And that's what will now prescribe how we go about it and how we grow over time.
But then, you know, when I've seen situations where cities were planned, as it were, and they evolved, they developed, and along the way, areas that were marked strictly residential began spotting commercial activity and all that.
Very possible, because even a human being, you know, I likened a human settlement to a human being, evolves. There are times somebody bloats up in size, and he has to look through his wardrobe and see that these clothes can't size anymore. He gets new ones. There are times that he trims down and says, you know what, I have to get new. So there is what is called review. So many times when in Nigeria, the once in a blue moon that we prepare a master plan, we think that it is forever. You know, plans are supposed to be reviewed because it's a dynamic system. And things are subject to change. So every 2 years, you look at it, what has this plan achieved? Has anything changed? If something has changed, for example, if you have an estate where those who started it were baby boomers, and then after some years, people have gone. They remain old. If you are still retaining an educational facility in that place, it will not make sense. I was in Manchester, I think in 2013, and somebody was pointing to a building that was apparently a church building. I was saying, sir, it's no longer a church, that is not a residential building, but the facade
still shows church,
was left as church. So it happens like that because the human settlement is a dynamic entity. So you respond to every change, making sure that what you want to do is promote sustainability so that you can live, work, and play.
But living, working, and playing in such an environment becomes almost impossible when you look at, say, Victoria Island that is now apparently more commercial than residential. There's no public car parking system here. I recall one of the businesses around the area had to eventually buy a plot to now erect a parking lot for its patrons because people's cars were being towed on the streets. But it was government's responsibility in the first instance to provide parking opportunities or even to stop people from converting a residential accommodation to commercial.
Okay, now we're truly not responding to dynamics in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And part of the dynamics we're not responding is the need for public transportation. First, we have too many vehicles on our roads. And that's why we need parking. In 2015, we were talking about 75,000 commercial vehicles, which we needed to mop up.
That's a lot.
As at that time. Last time I checked, I was trying to prepare a paper and I was researching. Now we have over 200,000 commercial vehicles. We mopped up the Molue buses to bring in the BRT buses. And the idea was the next phase was to mop up the Danfo buses. But what do we have now? Instead of mopping the Danfo buses, we now have those other tiny buses again, which in the
cluster the road
in the local parlance they call them Korokwe.
Yes.
So those ones are more. We now have tricycles.
Yeah.
All congesting our road system. So we are truly not responding to the dynamics. We are not applying the right medication to our illness. So what we need first is to invest in public transportation, mass transit, so that we can mop up all of those vehicles, make them freer. You will need less land for parking. There are also some dynamics now. You know, Uber and Bolt were not the in thing then.
No, they
now
were
you
not.
have them now. So why would I need to take my car?
All the time.
All the time, you know. So, but all of these things are, and we need data, studies all the time. We're not studying, we're not conducting any studies. And this will be the result all of the time. Failure of systems because we're not reviewing, examining ourselves to know whether we are making progress.
Okay. Now, because of the progress that has been achieved in society in terms of, say, advancements in information technology, it's easier to send information, receive information, share information, right? The younger generation is more into that than the older generation. However, politically speaking, how do we get the younger generation to even trust the older generation enough in terms of charting the right course for the future? Because they're the ones that will solve this problem we're seeing.
I agree with you. It's a matter of trust. I'll give you a personal experience. I was going to, before I left for government service, I went through a leadership course, and one of the things that I came across was the fact of some businesses that have stayed over 100 years. And they all started with individuals.
Yes.
Family businesses. And then I learned the liberal nature of those businesses, the ability to absorb people, the ability to give room for talent and things like that. And I remember that one of the things I used to say when I got back from the training, I was like, well, this Tony and Associates is just, it bears my name, but I'm not the owner. That if God asks me to do something else, I'll just move on. And lo and behold, I was invited to become a commissioner. So what did I do? I took younger people, my own staff, I took them to the bank and authorized the bank to open another Tony and Associates account to which they will be signatories and I will not be. That's trust.
That's trust.
You know, so from then on, every proceeds that came to the farm went into that account. They were the ones managing the account. Because of trust, I didn't need to call them to say, how much is there? I hope you have not finished spending. You know, I had made up my mind the day I was given that endorsement. I made up my mind that the worst that will ever happen is that they will close down the business. But you know what? They didn't close it down.
Yes.
They did it better than I would have done if I was still there, because they could take risks, risks that I wouldn't have taken because of my generation.
Yeah.
There's a book on relationship. I've forgotten the author now, but it was from that book that I learned about generations.
Yes.
And why, given the same amount to do the same thing, it would take me a longer time to do that thing than somebody who is younger.
Who's younger, yes.
Because he doesn't care to take the risk. I'll remember that I'm a grandfather.
Yes.
You know, all of those things. So those are the things I think we should begin to think about now. I think younger people should be given opportunity to take the risk on our behalf. We will also be taking a risk by trusting in them.
Yes.
Now somebody says, if you trust them and they disappoint you, if you say because they will disappoint, you will not trust
take
them.
the risk of trusting.
We'll just remain where we are, meaning the status quo. And somebody said the true meaning of status quo is the mess you are in. So if you say let the status quo remain, you are saying let the mess we are in remain. So I think if we want to get out of the status quo, we must take a plunge.
Yes.
Close our eyes. Let those young men try it. We're still alive to correct them.
To correct them.
But if we don't allow them...
But see, let's now conversely flip it. You recently, one of the parties, the APC to be candidate, right, decided to offer for sale its presidential form, nomination form, for 100 million naira for a job that for the entire tenure will be bringing in to the president or the candidate less than 60 million naira. So that's like you are being asked to go look for 100 million, come and invest it in a game of chance. You may end up not even being the candidate. And even if you end up being the candidate, your take-home pay is less than 60 million naira. So what are we saying to the young people? Yes, you say it is reduced for them to 50 million. How many young people will have 50 million naira and want to be president? Are we really serious?
Well, this is a turf that I'm still growing in.
Yes, we all are.
I say that I'm not an experienced politician, and truly I don't know the basis. First, I was thinking, or probably they want to test the sacrifice of the candidates, but how far would that really go? Because if we want them to sacrifice for Nigeria, I don't know if that money will really be put into...
The money will stay in the party.
So I really don't understand. But for me, I think if we make it more liberal, we're likely to get people who will perform, but they may not have that resource. You know, because it's not every time that your resource determines that you have something here.
Exactly. All right, we'll take a break now. When we return, Tampola India and I will be talking about the younger generation, their expectations, and how we of the older generation can lift them up. Stay tuned. It's still Timeless Conversation with my guest, Town Planner Ayinde. Now, young people, have we failed them, really? Or have we helped them? Or do we even understand them? We are quick to look at them as having a sense of entitlement, which is valid. And they're also quick to let us know that they are irritated by our style of administration or our style of doing stuff. Even when you employ young people, sometimes I've heard somebody say that, I don't understand my staff. Do we understand young people?
I think we should understand life as a continuous process. And when something is continuous, then we need to also learn as we go on. I look at the younger generation from the angle of my children. I have 4 children. And the first thing I know about them is that they are all different human beings. They all have separate ideas. I have the one that is carefree. I have one that is focused. I have one that is moody. His mood can just swing and things like that. So, and I know what to ask one person to do and the other not to do. So it takes time to study human beings and know what they are good at. And it's better to play with people's strength rather than bring out their weaknesses. I think part of the things we don't do is to see the good in the younger generation. I was part of a committee recently. We're still working, and we're trying to hold a professional summit. And then I was told that the theme they were considering was to look into drug abuse and things like that. So I said, so why are you looking at our youths only from drug abuse, things like that? Why are you not looking at their potentials in a challenging nation? You know, things like that, which we eventually agreed on. So I believe that given the right environment, given the guidance, our youths can actually do a lot better than us. Like I said, they have the energy. I go back to my background again. I said I'm a Christian and I've looked through the Bible. Anytime God wants to do any change, he does it through young men.
That's deep. That's true.
He does it through young men. When Moses was choleric, when he was young, he saw somebody oppressing the other. He said, why? He went out, as a young man, he was drunk. Joshua was full of strength, David, look at how
very exuberant.
He was a game changer when he saw Goliath. I mean, Saul was probably a grandfather and everybody was afraid. He was running away from Goliath. But this 17-year-old boy ran towards him. So I've seen young people effect the change. So when we are looking for change, we should be looking for the people whose blood is still hot. They are damning the consequences. I know what I could do when I was younger. There are things now. Moses Ogunleye, my colleague, made an observation when I became a commissioner. He said, Egbon, I can see that you talk, you are slower now when you want to speak. And there were a lot of things to think about. As commissioner, anything that came from my mouth would be a policy statement.
Declaration.
So I have to think and be slow about it. That's what happens to the older generation. There are a lot of things, a lot of sentiments at times to consider. So I think what the youths have as an advantage is that energy. But you can now channel that energy. And if we truly begin to trust that, we send them to school not to be stupid. So and we are not giving them the opportunity to use it. And I think part of the reasons why some of us don't want to leave power now is that we are not given the opportunity to test our leadership potential when we were young. So it's at 60, it's at 65 that you are now becoming somebody. You won't want to leave.
You won't want to leave.
But
you have to go.
That's really not the right age
to
now be showing as a leader. When I was going to contest as president of my institute, I was 57. And many people were asking me to step down for another person so that the person, and I did my calculations. I said, look, at 57, I will be second national vice president for 2 years. I'll be first national vice president for 2 years because it's a grooming process. And then I'll become president. I said, by the time I'm president, I'll be 61. I said, if you ask me to step down and we try to do some zoning kind of, by the time that opportunity comes to me again, I'll be 63. 2 years as second vice, 2 years as first vice. By the time I become the president, I'll be 67. I said I will be a stupid 67-year-old man if I cannot show you
an institute.
If I can't show you 5 younger people that will do it better than me. So I think we need to know that leadership has energy. So there's an age for leadership. There's an energy for leadership. There's a speed for leadership. I've gone to 25 states, and I spend 3 days, and I'm off to another place, and I'm off to another place. You know, one of our past presidents said, Tony, you know why you're able to do this? You are still young.
You're still young. Yeah, that's true.
So we need to put our young people out there to bring out the best in them, especially now that we're in the technology age.
Yes. Now, because they are even more technology savvy, they are exposed to a lot more of information than we were at our own time. They also need to listen to us. How do we make them listen to us?
Okay. You develop a relationship. Most times we're disconnected from our youths. You know, when parents are talking to their children, and you get to a point that a father is saying, I'm the one that gave birth to you, something is missing.
It's already threatened.
It's threatened. So it's like when a husband is telling his wife, do you know I'm the husband in this house?
Yes.
It's a break in communication. So we must always communicate with our children. I tell my children stories. I remind them of when I took them to school and I hadn't paid their school fees, and I was asked to take them back home. That's to let them remember that we didn't become who we are now just like this. It didn't happen to us. We went through processes. I remind them of when the car broke down and we had to push. So if we have one now that is remote controlled, don't be arrogant. We worked our way there. So all of these conversations we must have from time to time. I don't stop my children from asking me questions. It's different from in those days when we were brought up. Once our fathers, when you hear the car horn, everybody runs for cover.
Everywhere is cool.
Yes, and when daddy is in the sitting room, nobody is there. But this is different. You can come and discuss and things like that. And that's that's what we should really cultivate.
There's actually this push in these days now where they say that
really should be like a kind of taking someone by the hand and letting him know this and that. But for us, I think there are many things we picked on the way. You might not have been told directly. It's like being in an apprenticeship.
Sure.
You know, I wonder how some of these mechanics get to, because all they will just be doing is to be looking at their oga. You know, so, and there are things that can be taught. There are things that are caught. You can't teach it. So, but somehow is by either looking at someone over time, reading something, and it just strikes you. You know, that's the way some of us developed. And I think when our children look at us long enough. I was shocked when I went for my daughter's graduation in secondary school, and they had this magazine, and they put, "Who is your mentor?" And she wrote, "Her father." I was shocked. So this child is looking at me. So that means that I must not fail.
Her.
I must fail her. So as mentors, let me say as examples to our children, we will be mentoring them.
Okay.
That's the way I want.
And then we need to also take that outside the home.
Oh, of course. Do you know why we are building them in the home? We are building them for the society.
Yeah.
And I've seen my children come to tell me, and this is where we really have to be careful. My children have told me that, "Dad, we see some of these things that you are saying. They are true." I said, "But people are not practicing them out there." And that's the sad thing.
That's it.
Because no child of mine would break a traffic signal.
Certainly not.
No child of mine, whatever chaos is on the road, will drive against traffic. No child of mine would do that. Yeah. But they see other people do these things
and they
every
wonder.
day.
Yeah.
So this is what we are up against. So how many parents have taught their children
not to do that?
Not to do that.
Yeah.
That's the challenge.
Well, let's go back to the home now. I asked you at the initial stage that who is doing Ayinde, and you tried. Now, I'm coming back there. As a person, what are the things that give you pleasure?
Let me start by saying my relationship with God. And then my relationship with my family. I've been very close with my wife. Very, very close. We're very close.
Yeah.
So that helps me, and my children also know that. So we have grown together. I've not been privileged to close from work, then go somewhere and relax for hours before coming home. Once I'm done at work, I just go home, sit with my family. My relationship with God. I love getting principles.
Okay.
As I read the Bible, I'm not reading the story, I'm looking for the principles. So as to apply.
Yeah.
Because those things are meant to be applied to make you different. As you are. So if you are disciplined, why are you disciplined? I've read people who are disciplined.
Yes.
I've read about people who knew how to add value.
Yes.
You know, so, and I hold that I'm God's representative.
Okay, so
at any time.
What's your favorite food?
If you give me amala, the on the spot one.
The on the spot one.
Yes. If you give me 3 times a day, I won't complain.
You know, I remember when we were talking off the camera about the simplicity of the food, that Gari and Ekpa any day is a good combination.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I've taken quite a number of times in my office. I used to say when I was in government service that I did not, on account of becoming a commissioner, relocate my lunch area to Sheraton.
Exactly. Because you stop being commissioner already, and then you go back to the basics. But how did you become a commissioner? You were not a politician then.
I wasn't in politics. I was not a politician. It started from service. Because many people know. There is a tendency to think that it just happened. But no, it didn't just happen. I remember when I used to send emails to the governor. When I noticed anything, I would send emails to the governor. I went to Nanjing in 2008. I saw some things. I took pictures. And when I arrived, it was my personal trip. And I sent to the governor. I said, this is possible in Lagos. And then I had an opportunity to consult for Ministry of Housing. It was a project for which I had no letter of award, for which I had no dime as advance payment.
Yeah.
But just I saw it as a privilege to be invited to come and give service.
Yes.
And I prepared a 12-week schedule, and I dived into that assignment. And, you know, I didn't know that the governor was seeing this product being done free, not being paid for.
Yeah.
And it was there, and then he asked that I should be given a project. And when I submitted that project, when I presented, he said this was a very good work. And then I was given a second project, and I was given a third project. It was while I was on that third project that one day I received a phone call. It was the governor. He said, "I'd like to discuss with you. The rest is history." So what I have learned from that is Proverbs 22:29. Do you see a man diligent in his duties? He will stand before kings and not before men. So this is how I got to government. But having been in government, I served the APC government. So, and
you became APC.
Courtesy demands, courtesy demands that I'm a carrying member of APC.
Let me thank you for your time. We'll do this again as soon as we can, and I wish you the very best in your tenure.
Thank you very much.
As president of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners. It's been Timeless Conversations with Town Planner Toyin Ayinde as my guest. Thank you for coming.
It's a privilege, sir.
All right. Thank you all for watching. We'll be with you sometime soon. Thank you.
Good morning, I am Khadijat Balogu, and this is the News Brief. The digitalization of the National Social Insurance Trust Fund services, to be known as ENSITF, has been approved by the Federal Executive Council, FEC. The clearance was given by the Council during a meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, told journalists that the decision to digitize the NSITF was in keeping with the government's objective on ease of doing business and to stop money leaks in the industry. The Nigerian Senate has received a formal request from President Muhammadu Buhari to confirm Mohammed Bello Shehu as chairman of the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission. The request was contained in a letter read by President of the Senate, Hamad Lawan, at plenary.
Commission, in accordance with the provision of Section 154, Subsection 1 of 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, I am pleased to forward for confirmation by the Senate the appointment of Mohammed Bello Shehu as the Chairman, Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission. His CV is attached herewith. It is my hope that the Senate will consider and confirm the nominee in the usual expeditious manner. Please accept, distinguished Senate President, the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely,
In a related development, the Senate President, Hamad Lawan, also forwarded President Buhari's request to confirm the nomination of Joe Aniko Michael for appointment as Substantive Director General, CEO for the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, to the Committee on Works. Also forwarded was the President's request for the confirmation of Umar Yaya as co-chairman of the Governing Council of Unclaimed Funds to the Committee on Banking, Insurance, and Other Financial Institutions. Both nominees are expected to appear before the relevant committees for screening. The respective committees were given 2 weeks to report to the Senate in plenary. The Senate at the plenary passed the Public-Private Partnership Regulatory Commission Bill 2022. Also passed was the Chartered Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2022. The passage of the bills followed the consideration and adoption of 2 separate reports of the Committees on Works and Establishment and Public Service. Upon its passage and assent into law, the bill would provide the necessary legal regime for the effective specialization, standardization, and professionalism of the field of engineering in Nigeria. However, the report on the Public-Private Partnership Regulatory Commission Bill 2022 was presented by Senator Adamu Alero. Alero said the bill sought to strengthen and enhance the supervisory role of the Commission and effectively position it in regulating the participation of the public and private sectors. The Senate at plenary constituted an ad hoc committee to investigate Shell Petroleum Development Company over non-compliance with the Petroleum Act and violation of joint venture agreement entered into with the federal government. The ad hoc committee was mandated to investigate the oil mining lease granted to SPDC between 1959 to 1989 and 1989 to 2019 under the SPDC and NNPC joint venture agreement. The committee, constituted by the Senate President Ahmad Lawan, as Senator Sabi Abdullahi as chairman. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, has reversed the ruling by the Deputy Speaker Ahmad Wase on the move by the Parliament to override the veto by the President on Section 84, subsection 8 of the Electoral Act 2022. The National Assembly had amended the section to provide for statutory delegates at the meetings, congresses, and conventions of political parties. Wase had on Tuesday stepped down the motion moved by a member of the House, Ben Igbakwa, to ask that the Parliament invoke its powers under Section 58, subsection 5 of the 1999 Constitution by overriding the President's veto on the bill. The Deputy Speaker had argued that the House could not override the veto through a motion, but a reconsideration of the bill. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has come up with a resolution that will compel the federal government to approve firearms for local vigilante to aid the fight against insurgency, banditry, and kidnapping in the country. The resolution, amongst others, followed a motion of urgent national importance on the sorry state of insecurity in the country, especially the recent adoption of a traditional ruler in Plateau State. The Green Chamber also urged the federal government to direct the Inspector General of Police, Chief of Defense Staff, and other relevant security agencies to immediately do everything possible to ensure the safe release of the district head of Payan and others in kidnappers' captivity across the country, the reports. Insecurity has become an everyday occurrence in the country, as no day passes without news of one kidnapping or the other. The recent adoption of a traditional ruler by armed bandits in Plateau State seems to have triggered wild condemnation by federal lawmakers in the Green Chamber. Solomon Marin brought the motion on the kidnapping of the traditional ruler from Plateau, His Royal Highness Aminu Darwan, by heavily armed bandits who were shooting indiscriminately in the early hours of Monday. He called on the House to summon the Inspector General of Police, the Army, as well as other relevant security agencies to find out why this trend has continued unabated.
Early this year, the Sumpiam, a paramount ruler of Gendri Chiefdom, and the district head of Pushit were both at separate attacks abducted by miscreants and bandits, which were, however, released after huge ransom were paid. Further aware that bandits have taken their dastard acts to highways, villages, and even cities, including some parts of the Federal Capital Territory. Concerned that the spate of kidnapping, abductions, and attacks has been systematic, well-coordinated, and targeted across the constituency, the state, and indeed the country, which is alarming and of grave concern.
Federal lawmakers, while condemning the attacks as well as the state of insecurity in the country in general, also made some amendments to the motion.
There is nothing that will happen. I have it here in my handset. At times they give the direction and even where they are meeting. But it's the implementing agency. Even if you are going to recruit the entire villages now and give them this light arms, somebody carrying an arm, a gun that can discharge 100 bullets in one round, how will you face him? AK-47, how will you face him? One life matters a lot. I shouldn't disclose possibly certain things, but because somebody is safe, I'm telling you sincerely, our people are committed. We have lost a number of them. They are not worried because they are defending their land.
The Borno model that I want to recommend for the state governments in the various affected states to equally fund and support is the formation of a very robust vigilante groups that are going to be armed, not necessarily with sophisticated weapons like AK-47, with pump action guns.
The motion was unanimously adopted when it was put to vote by the Speaker, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, at plenary. The presidency has described the recent attacks in Owo, Ondo State, and part of Kaduna State as planned and politically motivated criminal outrages. In a statement signed by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, the presidency argued that the attacks are designed to set various regions of the country against one another, but added that it would not be distracted by such intrigues. The statement, titled "Recent Spate of Church Attacks Unacceptable," stated that the tragedies which shook the nation to its core is designed by wicked people to put the country under religious stress. The Nigeria Immigration Service has launched an enhanced electronic passport center at the Immigration Office in Benin City. Unveiling the center, the Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, said applicants will no longer need the services of third parties in obtaining passports and warned against any form of sharp practice. On their part, the state governor and the Controller General of Nigerian Immigration Services lauded the federal government's approach to eradicating passport racketeering.
A significant aspect of this event, I must state, is the commission of a centralized passport production center in this premises, who shall take care of all the passport production activities of all the various passport offices in Asaba and Wari. The purpose of this is to have a much more coordinated passport production process that is expected to increase the rate of delivery.
I'm asking, therefore, that the Nigerian Immigration Service do everything within its power to make this a thing of the past. What we are doing here today has removed all obstacles from passports applicants. I have now on this new platform 10,000 passports here.
This action will not only help ease the application process and the processing and production of passports in our state for use by our residents, but which will also help our brothers in our neighboring Delta State. Every Nigerian who has had to obtain a passport will attest to the fact that the process was hitherto slow, tedious, and plagued by touts and other corrupt practices. I join with the Minister of Interior to say that we are in total solidarity with you to stamp out.
Now, the new governor-elect in Ekiti State, Biodun Oyebanji, has promised to deliver the dividends of democracy to residents of the state. Oyebanji said this in Ado Ekiti when he received the certificate of return as governor-elect of Ekiti State at the State INEC Secretariat. In his address, the resident electoral commissioner in charge of Ekiti, Oyo, and Lagos, Sam Olumekun, who commended the performance of the bimodal voters accreditation system during the election, also hailed security agents for playing a pivotal role in the success of the election. Governor-elect Biodun Oyebanji, who was accompanied by the First Lady of Ekiti State, Erelu Bisi Fayemi, promised to build on the legacy of the outgoing administration in the state. Oyebanji also hailed residents of the state for a peaceful democratic process which culminated in his election on June 18th.
Elections. May I use this forum to call on Nigerians to be alive to their civic responsibility by coming out to vote for candidates of their choice during the elections. I must therefore commend the good people of the state for their peaceful conduct during the election. Other candidates who contested the election but lost also deserve to be praised for their gallantry.
And to Ekiti, I thank you all for investing your trust in us, in our party. What is happening today is historic in Ekiti State. This is the first time that a government is succeeding itself. And I make bold to say that this is made possible by the stellar performance of Dr. Rufai, because June 18 was a referendum on Dr. Rufai as governor of the state. And Ekiti State came out and validated the fact that he has done so well.
The light is here, and we pray that with this new government, is going to bring in a lot of innovations in governance. Is going to also bring in the experience of his youthfulness and the dynamism, and of course, the asset that is carrying forward from the outgoing government.
Biodun Oyebanji is expected to be sworn in on October the 16th, 2022. The chairperson House of Representatives Committee on INEC, Honorable Aisha Duku, has said that the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, has promised to extend the ongoing continuous voters registration by 60 days after considering the other modalities. This clarification came after it was initially reported that the electoral umpire has extended the voters registration by 60 days. The spokesman of the House, Honorable Benjamin Kalu, and the chairperson, Honorable Aisha Duku, briefed the House of Representatives correspondents to clear the air and put the record straight on the issue.
INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu came with many commissioners to answer the call of the House. That registration of voters is one aspect. There are other, schedules, other milestones that have to be achieved, which the chairman explained. Such include the printing of the voters' cards, the distribution of the voters' card, and then the printing of lists of even all persons registered in all the 774 local governments nationwide. And so it will not be possible, this is his statement, for INEC to extend to the days we requested. However, they will go back and look at their timelines and then look at how possible, how best they can, be able to make it to increase, the days for registration.
There was never a time the chairman of the committee announced to the House that INEC has extended, the registration to 60 days from 30th of June. That was a misrepresentation which we don't know where it's coming from. And we want you to retract, for those of you who has published that, it never happened. But as the mover of the motion, what I put across for the House to consider was for it to be extended for 60 days, having in mind of the 90 days of the publishing of this particular register, 90 days of publishing of other issues that they have to do, because many people think it's only registration that INEC handles. There are other responsibilities that the Electoral Act has given to INEC, to the extent that INEC is beginning to ask for other commissions to come out of them to be able to, help them with the job that they are doing. It's a lot of job that is in their hands.
In Ogun State, Organized Labour Congress in the state have issued a 7-day ultimatum to the state government over its continued non-remittance of workers' deductions, restoration of payments of gross salaries, among other demands. The workers under the auspices of Nigeria Labour Congress NLC, Trade Union Congress TUC, and the Joint Negotiating Committee JNC maintained that it has earlier called the attention of the state government to the growing restiveness amongst its employees, adding that it is worrisome that there has not been any official response or acknowledgement of their letters. It therefore called on the state government to attend to the issues raised within the next 7 days or face imminent labor action.
Government has not remitted the amount deducted from workers' salary, nor add its own percentage to that particular area. What we are saying is that when you have an agreement with individual or individuals, as the case may be, and that agreement is not functional again, the best you can do is to cancel that agreement, return to a discussion, the negotiation table, and look at what better way to collectively agree at a new agreement.
We cannot do it alone. It's a collective responsibility. Thank God we're in a democracy. All over another climb, if you have a government that is not responsive, that is not responsible, your power that you have is the power of your franchise to check them out. So we will not ask for any violent removal of a government, but civilized and democratically, we should be able to get them out if they don't know what governance is all about.
For instance, look at the promotion, which is one of the lubricants for effective productivity in any establishment. Government is yet to conduct the 2021 and 2022 promotion exercise. We don't want this to also spill into 2023, which is the election year with its own headache and pains. 2023 is going to be an election year, and definitely government will be too busy. We believe workers should be treated in a very decent manner so as to avert any industrial disaster.
And in other parts of Africa, noise rang out across Senegal's capital, Dakar, on Wednesday evening as people honked car horns and banged on pots and pans in an unusual form of protest organized by the political opposition ahead of legislative elections next month. Senegal's main opposition coalition, Ye We Ask and We, asked its supporters to come to their windows, balconies and doorways and clang lids together to signal their anger over the disqualification of their candidate list in the upcoming poll. The demonstration followed street protests last week that were banned by authorities and turned violent as police fired tear gas and water cannons during clashes with protesters. And outside Africa, the Taliban in Afghanistan have appealed for international support as the country deals with the aftermath of a devastating 6.1 magnitude earthquake in which more than 1,000 people were killed and at least 1,500 injured, with an unknown numbers buried in the rubble of ruined, often mud-built homes. Southeastern Paktika province has been worst hit, and the UN is scrambling to provide emergency shelter and food aid. Rescue efforts are being hampered by heavy rain and lack of resources. Meanwhile, the Japanese government has planned to provide assistance to Afghanistan after an earthquake there killed at least 1,000 people. Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary Seiji Kihara told a regular news conference that the government was coordinating moves to swiftly provide the necessary aid, as well as assessing the situation to grasp local needs. The death toll from the earthquake in Afghanistan is expected to grow as information trickles from remote mountain villages. And in business news, ahead of the International Widows' Day, the Human Development Initiative has rendered support to widows and the vulnerable people in the society. Executive Director of HDI, Olufunsho Owasoye, who led our team at the Baptist Church in Yaba area of Lagos State, says the gesture is meant to alleviate the hardship the widows go through. Paul George tells us more in this report.
In every society, there are women of all ages whose husbands have died, leaving them vulnerable. The underprivileged widows and vulnerable children constitute a significant component. It is no surprise that these vulnerable ones have converged on this church. The economic situation of the country leaves much to be desired and have greatly impacted on their daily lives. Olufunsho Owasoye leads the Human Development Initiative. She speaks of her drive and why it has become necessary to show support.
As of that 25 years ago, there were this set of people, vulnerable group, that I would say neglected. That most people, it's like you, just go and sit down there. So early then, it was my husband and I, we used to go to churches and some of these, where they have widows group, to talk to them about will or even what they can do before their husband dies. We empower them through vocational skills, bead making, catering, all sorts of empowerment to make themselves reliant. Then we give education scholarship to their children from nursery to federal university. As of today, we have 75 in university, almost 500 in from nursery to primary school. And I want to use this medium to say a big thank you to our donors and partners.
As admonitions are reeled out, the widows here are encouraged to be prudent and advised to put God first as the future is bright.
I'm going to begin by telling you that if I am not prudent, I think I would have been lost. I would have been lost. And all my children would have been lost also. We all are widows. We are all alone. Only on our own that we are the favorite in the God's heart. God loves the widows. And once you keep yourself for God, God will always be with you.
One of the donors expresses delight in supporting the initiative, while the beneficiaries are appreciative of the gesture.
We always partner with them. Not only them, other different groups of widows associations in various areas. We've made provision for 250 people. All of a sudden, today happens to be a lot of people that came. The expected crowd, they brought their friends and whatnot. So they are ranging about 300 and above 300.
I'm a widow of 8 children. So they say they will assist me, they will help. I never believe it. The good work they started, the Lord who made them to start this work shall fulfill long life, prosperity, and health.
They call us to come and attend this meeting today for this Jesus wife meeting. We pray for them and God give them power to make sure that they remember us every year by year, and God will give them the power and knowledge to be doing this for us.
One of the high points of the event was the presentation of gift items to the beneficiaries. Paul George. In every society. And in entertainment news, award-winning Nigerian singer David Adeleke, popularly known as Davido, has offered a full scholarship to one Moro Sulaiman, a young Ghanaian who got parallel A1 in WAEC exams, but has been sitting at home due to lack of funds to sponsor his education at the tertiary level. However, there was a twist of fate after the tweet of an internet user tasking Nigerians to come to the aid of the poor student went viral and got Davido's attention. Sulaiman will be studying at the Adeleke University, Ede, owned by Davido's father, on a full scholarship. And in sport news, 8 medical personnel are to stand trial accused of criminal negligence in the death of legendary Argentinian footballer Diego Maradona. A judge has ordered a culpable homicide trial after a medical panel found Maradona's treatment was rife with deficiencies and irregularities. Maradona died in November 2020 of a heart attack in Buenos Aires, aged 20. And that's the news brief. For more stories, please follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. I am Khadijat Balogun. Many thanks for watching.
Life can be fun and rewarding, but it also comes with some risk. As in business, you win some, you lose some. And that's why you need to be wise in the choices you make. It's like placing a bet. Again, you need to be wise. Wise in choosing an innovative platform with the highest market options and highest odds ever. That's why Winners Golden Bet, the leader in online, in-shop, virtual, and live sports betting, gives you enhanced platforms that offer you the best chances of winning. for betting on live soccer matches, live dog races, and virtual games. Winners Golden Bet is your best bet. Instant payment on winnings guaranteed. Play online or in any of our numerous shops nearest to you.
Hey guys, be wise. Play on Winners Golden Bet.
Winners Golden Bet, the wise choice.
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require a permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message is from
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.